Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Derek.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Welcome, everyone, to the 497th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. Andy Patterson, Steve Wellings with us. I am Matt DiGelinardo for the big old 497. A few away from 500, switching it up a bit so that Mr. Wellings rightfully gets to host the 500th episode. I insisted on that. He is so damn deserving of that. So he's going to get that, and he's going to put in all the work to make the show fantastic too. Because to the victor goes the spoils, Steve.
Sticking with Palmares, you know.
Yeah.
He's a strategist, isn't he, old Matthew?
Yeah. Well, you know, I worked in politics for a reason. Everything is about moving the pieces around the chessboard, Steve. So we did have a couple of little cards going on this last week. We'll start it off with Saturday night because a couple of us were able to catch that. Mauricio Lara proving why he's one of the more violent punchers at featherweight, taking out Jose San Martin, who is normally very durable, in the third round. Just really battering him in that round. Steve, I just feel like they're trying to keep Lee Wood as far away from Lara as possible. That fight was never going to happen. But God, I want Lara to be in another meaningful fight. This guy is vicious.
Yeah, he needs a meaningful fight. The Wood fight was the fight that I wanted to see. And I think it was Juice Ranger Rollins on Twitter the other day saying the WBA hadn't received any official confirmation or any proof of Wood's injury. Seemed like a swerve to me, unfortunately. Why would you put him in against somebody like Lara? From a technical standpoint, you want him to unify against, I don't know, Santa Cruz or go in and fight against Warrington in a big fight. From their point of view, but from our point of view, we got robbed of a decent scrap. Lara's an absolute beast. He got the better of Warrington in those two fights. The second one was inconclusive, the way it ended. And he's a big puncher. I was moaning to Andy about DAZN actually off air, which I shouldn't really do, but I only got to see highlights of this fight. For some reason, the full fight replay on DAZN only lasted for 58 minutes. And I watched a bit of more against somebody. I went back later and saw Reshad Matty, a bit of him in action as well. But as for Lara, he just got rid of this guy in the third round, from what I could see. Started landing the big heavy shots. Looked like he was jabbing a bit more than usual, showing a few boxing skills. But when he gets those shots going, he's excitement guaranteed, and he's a very big puncher. And he's just a who needs him kind of guy. He's going to have to force his way, punch his way, and knock his way out up the sanctioning bodies to get a shot at people, because they're not going to give him an opportunity. Otherwise, they'll keep him away from the better fighters as much as they can. And I always enjoy watching him. Came out the blue against Warrington, and I keep an eye on him since. So, yeah. Good performance, good knockout for him last night.
Andy, did you catch this one?
No, mate, I didn't. The only fight I caught this weekend was Patrick McCrory's knockout win over Leon Boone.
Okay,
Didn't even know this DAZN card was on, mate, until this morning when I checked the old Twitter.
Okay, we'll hit back up on that one quick. Yeah, these kind of snuck up on us a little bit. There was nothing big going on this weekend. They decided, hey, let's cram everything into the next weekend instead of spacing things out a little bit and letting everybody share a piece of the pie. No, we can't do that. So also on that card, on El Fierro taking out Jeremy Cuevas in the 7th round. Fierro coming back from his loss to God, who the hell was that he lost to? It's killing me right now. I won
Fierro. But then he
Yeah,
drew
he
with
lost-
Burgos. He lost to
Burgos,
Alex
yeah.
Martin,
There
the
you
kid who
go.
fought Michael McKinson.
There you go. Yeah. So coming off that little run there, good little fight there while it lasted. Cuevas could take a hell of a punch, couldn't take them all. Ended up getting blasted out in the 7th. The referee taking mercy upon him. Yeah, that one kind of snuck up on us a little bit. There was also a card on that came on Showtime over the weekend, which opened up with the really fun little heavyweight scrap on there. Where the heck? Bear with me on that. I'd forgotten about it until we got on here. But that it was fantastic. It was headlined, Jesus Christ, by Isaiah Steen, losing to Agbeko in a fight that I scored a draw. But Steve,
you love a draw, Matty.
I had draws all over the goddamn place, Steve.
Motherfucker, man. How the hell is it?
No, and to be fair on this fight, the Showtime crew also scored this fight a draw, with Agbeko taking a wide unanimous decision. But I can see how that happened on this one, because what went down in this fight is Steen, who is actually his stepbrother, is Chris Cornwell, I think was his name. Cromwell, there you go. But Steen, he's such an amateur still. He threw very few power punches. I don't know if anyone in the chat caught this fight, but it was just entirely behind the jab, very much that old amateur style, just trying to put up points with the jab. And if you're scoring it punch to punch, jabs to power punches, yeah, maybe it was, you could give him a shot at maybe sneaking out the decision. But Agbeko was the one landing the power shots until the very later rounds. I just thought that he just handed that fight away on that one, unfortunately. And also on that card, we had Marquise Taylor taking a win over Marlon Harrington in a fight that really kind of failed to excite a little bit on that one.
Matty, there's a guy in the chat just saying that you and Badu Jack will have a draw. Michael Thompson was.
I wish Badu Jack was in some. I know he's had a few entertaining fights, but I wish he was in more entertaining fights, because he could be my favorite fighter, Andy. He could be my favorite fighter. As I was doing research into a fight coming up this weekend, I found a gal whose record is 3-3-3. That's the kind of mediocrity that we can all get behind.
Sounds like Illuminati going on there, Matty.
Yeah, to be honest as well, mate, there's been a lot of mediocrity kind of kicking about the boxing world the last few weeks as well, to be fair, mate. So
a lot of people are crying, Andy, aren't they, this week? I've never heard so many people saying boxing's dead. I'm not watching the sport anymore. It's shit. For flip me, they only just got the memo. We've been going through this since 2000 and before.
Exactly, mate. And we were hated for it. We were called haters, and we had a negative attitude toward the sport. I've had to talk Rob Kelly off a ledge the last couple of days and that as well. He's ready for fucking.
Oh, he's in a bad place. Rob is. I
know. I mean, but when I messaged him on the WhatsApp, I'm like, fucking hell, Rob, man. Christ's sake, I won't ask you how you were doing there. I didn't want your fucking War and Peace message back. Fucking boxing. Terence Crawford, fucking bum. Rob's raging about Terence Crawford. We'll
get to that. We're gonna have plenty on that. I find the guys in the heavyweight fight, and I apologize. I wasn't even thinking about taking notes on this because all this seemed so inconsequential. And I was like, oh wait, you're right. There's nothing else that's really going on this weekend. But so the opener of that Showbox card, and neither of these guys is gonna be a championship fighter. Trust me on that. But Moses Johnson getting an upset victory over Elvis Garcia in what was a very close fight. Like I said, I had that one a draw. I think the Showtime guys might have had it a draw. I think Farhood had it slightly for Garcia. But there was one even card, 277 75s for Moses Johnson in a nice heavyweight slugfest. Some good inside fighting, lots of body shots. Neither guy had the motor to really push it over the edge in the end, but it was nice, evenly fought per the typical show box. You can't argue with the decision. It could have been a draw, could have gone either way, one round or the other. I don't think you can dispute 5 rounds to 3. Very fair judging on this one. So if anybody wants to wander back and watch that show card for something of entertainment value, these guys, like I said, aren't going to be world beaters. Go back, check out a nice 8-round heavyweight fight between Moses Johnson and Elvis Garcia. That was an enjoyable watch, at least in this dull weekend of boxing. Andy, what was it you caught?
It was a Patrick McCrory fight against Leon Boone, mate. I think it was based in Germany. I was actually trying to watch it live with my absolutely brutal hangover yesterday, but the link, it was an Irish TV link, actually, it just wouldn't work for me. It would just start buffering, so I caught it up this morning or this afternoon sometime. McCrory just, even though he's been fighting at super middleweight for the best part of his career, he just looked size-wise far bigger than Leon Boone, who's been up at 170, 175 for the best part of his career. Bludgeoned Boone in 6 rounds, just had no respect for him. Hurt him, wobbled him, dropped him a few times. I think it was even early as the second round. He seemed to kind of get home a few shots. He was, literally, he was throwing uppercuts, as a lead punch, coming in with hooks. And in the end, it was a kind of downward trajectory right hand. It's put Boone down, and he's been given an 8 count. The referee's waved it off. But it was a hell of a performance, to be fair. He took a decent sized fan base over him, maybe about 50 or so, which is no mean feat these days. For one of the big 5, as Steve calls it, the IBO light heavyweight title. So yeah, it was a good performance. But Leon Boone, to be fair, I've seen him a couple of times. In all honesty, he is your quintessential European, no special effects type fighter, probably European level at best, and it probably showed. McCrory just showed he was far better than him in all types of levels. I was surprised actually as to how easily he was hurting him, to be fair, because I never really kind of took McCrory as a big banger, at least to be fair. But every time he kind of touched him with heavy shots, Boone was feeling it right down to his boots, and says the knees were buckled early doors in that fight, and he just found it really hard to kind of recover into it. To be fair, just couldn't handle the size, the reach, ultimately the power and the end to McCrory. So yeah, fair play to him.
Steve, you wanted to get a piece in on this fight?
Yeah, just a quick one from me as well, Matty. First of all, Leon Boone, even though he's 18-0, he's never really impressed me in the little bits and pieces I've seen. He's not much of a puncher, which he showed last night. He looked like he was just bringing a pea shooter to a gunfight. He could not fight back with any power whatsoever. But whenever he got the fight, I first heard Podgy McCrory was getting this fight out in Germany. He was replacing Daniel Blender dos Santos, who eagle-eyed viewers will remember went in against Joshua Buatsi a few fights ago. And dos Santos is shit. And when McCrory jumped in, I thought to myself, I would think they made a mistake here. He is quite raw, McCrory, even though he was a good amateur, but he can definitely punch. Well, he could at super middleweight anyway. If that power carries up and he got his man strength, which you would imagine in his early 30s, then Boone's going to be right in trouble here, and so it proved. And McCrory just battered him. He kept hurting him. The only kind of thing I was thinking might happen is if McCrory gassed out a little bit at times, or if he took a few shots off Boone, he managed to get the jab going, the body shots, McCrory could power down. But it never happened. He just never led him into the fight whatsoever. He's got himself an IBO title as well. So fair play to him on that. But for McCrory, it's like a personal thing because I've known McCrory for years, way back to when he was an amateur. I used to work with his brother-in-law, Big John, and we would have talked about Podrick all the time. So I just kind of felt vindicated and kind of like it was like a personal victory for him to get that night. I know it's only IBO and everything, but even just working way up to that payday, might get himself an opportunity now. Some of the bigger promoters might look at him as an opponent, if nothing else, because he was close to fighting David Lemieux last year, but the broadcaster, whoever it was, said they weren't happy with him as an opponent. But I remember him fighting as an amateur, and then he was going to turn over with Graham Earl back in about 2010. I remember going back and forward with John, how's Podrick getting on? I know he's going to quit the game. He didn't box for years, looked like his head was out of it. And I remember sitting in the Dockers Club in about 2014, something like that, 2015, and watched him lose a decision. I think it was to Sean McGlinchey in the Ulster finals, and he was really down again. He wasn't going to carry on with the sport, and to go from that to turn pro, to see the likes of Conlon, D. Walsh in the corner, show the faith in him, and sponsors getting on board with as well, and getting him to this position to go out to Germany. Like Andy said, there was a right crowd. I knew a guy from my work went out, John, who I mentioned earlier, his brother-in-law went out as well, and they cheered him on all the way through the fight, and he just battered the shit out of Bon. Now, unfortunately, the stream, as Andy mentioned, wasn't very good. It was TG4, it's an Irish language channel. Their stream just wasn't working at all. But I managed to see most of it last night and then picked up the rest this morning. So fair play to Podrick. Hopefully he gets a good chance, a good shot out of this. Kurt Walker on the undercard as well. Kieran Malloy, he's a guy who can shift some tickets. I think he bought, they said, about 400 people from Galway to his last fight, which was the Michael Conlon undercard. I'm not sure how far he'll go. I'm not sure how far Walker will go either, but they took a right good crowd out last night. But it was all about Podrick McCrory's night, so good payday for him, good knockout, and hopefully he'll get more opportunities off the back of that, because I'm really pleased for him.
Nothing on the undercard to speak of?
Like I said, Kurt Walker got a win. I'm not really sure about him. He was a very good amateur. I don't know how far he'll go as a pro. He is quite easy to hit. Malloy as well won. There was a female card which might have excited you, Matty, but I mean, we couldn't see it. The stream, it was a really weird stream. It kept on cutting out and saying you're not allowed to watch this stream in your area, and then it would come back on and it would like go back in time 30 seconds, then it would freeze, then it would go, it was a really annoying stream. So I couldn't really make head nor tail of the undercard. I just about watched the main event.
That happened to me as well. See, like sometimes when a live link is kind of like lagging behind, you just click on the wee sign at the bottom that says live, and it takes you right to like the live now. I was clicking that button, it was taking me back to fucking an Irish women's football game. Actually, I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, the standard of that wasn't too bad, Andy. I was watching that too, actually.
Was that the Wexford game? I think it was Wexford
against
women.
Someone else. Can't remember who they're playing. Yeah,
that's what was happening. So I was what's going on? That game was 2 years ago. What's going on? I thought I was sitting there. I think I've been drinking mess by this point or something. I was like, surely no. But no, it was hard to watch. I ended up watching on YouTube this morning, so a wee bit like the Zone, I suppose, complaints here. No, you can't get the fights. No fights for you.
All right. Yeah, it's always a fun time trying to navigate that streaming crap. You couldn't even solve it with your VPN. The shit's rough, Andy. It's rough.
Yeah, mate. Well, I didn't even try the VPN because it was working fine with me. As Steve says, I was even getting that message coming up as well. This is not available in your area. I was like, fucking hell. So I went and got the VPN working. It's not available in your area. Then I switched all the VPN off and it came back on. I'm like, nah, I sacked it off. I think even the rest of the lads were watching it. Ben possibly was watching it. I mean, Dave Lee was watching it. So I think they had the same problems, but it was just complete shit.
It was saying the same for me and Dave Lee as Rob as well. If it's not available in Ireland, then there's no hope for anybody else on the other side.
Exactly. I mean, Dave doesn't get any closer to it than the rest of us for the local hookup. He fucking stays in the country, man. But he couldn't get it. It's geo blocked. Fucking what? The VPN wouldn't work, mate, as well. To be fair.
Yeah, son of a bitch. Well, we got a bunch of questions, at least from the people.
Woo!
Got a bunch of questions. Steve, let me ask you, do you remember if there's any questions in here relating to the Crawford and Spence fuckery?
Mate. Wait till Rob gets one for this one. Like, he will fucking melt.
I think Brummy Bears might have touched upon it, but I don't think anybody else did, Matty. Brummy Bear joined up on Patreon this week and he threw in this question, but I don't think any of the others do.
Well, why don't we use that and we'll segue into going to that a little bit deeper. Is boxing in danger of fading away and people losing interest? No big fights being made. Crawford versus Spence, not happening. Fury versus AJ, not happening. Ship fights like Fury versus Chisora on pay-per-view. Crawford versus Avanesian on pay-per-view as well, my friends. White versus some bin man no one's heard of. Promoters protecting juiced up fighters. DAZN ripping off subscribers. It's all pointing to some people not giving a fuck anymore. Thoughts of the panel on the current state of the game? Yeah, it's not good. It's definitely not good. When you're kind of looking down the end of this, Steve, and the and possibly the biggest card in the last 3 months of the year, as far as the impact it made, might be from the women's end of the sport. I don't know. Weigh that how you'd like to weigh it.
What do you think, Matty, first of all, before I say anything?
There's a few good fights coming up in the sense I think there might be some surprises in store. I've talked about that with Bivol versus Ramirez. I think Chocolatito versus Strada is going to deliver.
I wouldn't hang my hat on that one, to be fair. I mean,
Well-
there comes a point with they two where the Gubbins might just fucking, depressurize and they fucking blow a gasket on the night,
Well-
it might just be one step too far for they two.
Well, I guess I will go for this. This is how I'm kind of seeing it, and it's because it seems like they're having trouble with PVC trying to find a deal with Fox and Showtime. All these cards are winding up on pay-per-view. I don't know what their out is, if they're going to be able to renegotiate something. If we lose PVC boxing cards, there's just the level of high-quality boxing is just going to go down the tubes. Maybe they'll think about doing an app or something like that. But unfortunately, PVC has built the best product, but they've also spent the most money doing it. I think you have to look at everything honestly when it comes to what the PVC has done. And yes, they deliver. But the purses that they're giving these fighters keep fighters from getting into the ring, except for once a year. You get in the ring once, they make their couple $1 million. After taxes and paying your people, you're still clearing $1 million. Fuck it. Then you sit around, you jog for a few months, and you come back and you fight the next year. Those purses were so ridiculous, it got Showtime and HBO into the bidding war, where HBO finally just said, fuck it, we're out of boxing. We're going to invest in other content. And that ruined HBO boxing, which was a hallmark of American sports for like 35 years.
HBO boxing was starting to dwindle, wasn't it? They had chief executives coming in who didn't like boxing, and they were cutting it down and cutting it down and cutting it down each time. And then Peter Nelson, I think, eventually it was his head on the block. But I think the guys behind the scenes were like, boxing's not bringing things in for us here. We need to fuck them off. And Heyman was getting the $1 million purses. He moved everybody over and then went with Showtime. But sorry, Matt, I interrupted you there. I have so many thoughts floating around my head.
They pumped a lot of their money in that Game of Thrones series as well, didn't they?
Well, they did.
Sorry, HBO.
But people ran into that, and the problem is people like Andre Berto. The only fight that Andre Berto ever should have made $1 million for is fighting Floyd, and he didn't even deserve to fight Floyd.
Well, he should have fought Floyd earlier, shouldn't he, really? I mean, that was the whole point. But yeah, PBC, a lot of PBC are about to go. Well, they're talking about PBC disappearing or Showtime disappearing out the sport. Eddie might get his wish eventually, but they did push the purses up far too much. And I don't think the demise of PBC or Uncle Al getting out of boxing would be anything to celebrate, like a lot of people do. But even though I do defend them, their fighters don't fight regularly enough, Matty. I've said this before. I know I sound like an old bastard, but fighting once a year. Me and Andy were talking about this off air earlier. Jerron Ennis he's going to fight 4 minutes this year. 4 minutes against Custio Clayton. That's it. They just don't fight regularly enough. He has, 200, 300 fighters in his stable. He can't afford to push up the prices high enough to pay them all now. So that has been to his detriment, really, even though I do praise Al. He can't get them out there. They are getting paid well when they fight, but fighting once a year is not enough. Look at the other Charlo. Is it Jamal? He's not even going to fight at all this year, is he? Unless I'm missing something. The older brother, the middleweight one. It just got ridiculous.
Didn't he fight some chump in the middle of the year?
He was supposed to fight Selecki, wasn't he? But he got called off. Yeah, that fight didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. They don't fight regularly enough. I mean, like I said, Ennis only fighting 4 minutes is ridiculous. I know he has his own problems, which is similar to Crawford's, actually, signing with too many people. If people remember, early on in his career, Crawford had this issue, signing with Middendorf, signing with, was it Cameron Duncan, and Bob Allen was trying to get him out of them contracts. Crawford makes ridiculous decisions. I was blaming Spence for this and the PBC, to be honest, but I've actually been listening to quite a few people who I respect and podcasts that I listen to regularly, and they're actually blaming Crawford, funnily enough. I mean, having that big fat Bomac in the corner ain't helping for a start. See, these fat trainers and managers, they need to be fucked off out the sport. Eddie Reynoso is just as bad.
I'm going to go the other side. I know, you might be hearing what you're hearing, and I'd love to hear those pieces. But let me say this. I think Crawford called out the right thing when he said, I'll take short money, and his but was, I want some control of the way that this money is being spent. Because you have to look at it from the perspective of if these fighters are getting these type of paydays, what are the office people making? What are people like? What do the Watson twins do for the business? What were they making? Are they still making if they're with it? How is this company structured? And is there waste outside of the purses when you're talking about they're paying people too much money? And I think Crawford might have called out the right problem. And in doing that, people can take whatever stance they want based on X, Y, and Z. But this inflated bullshit, Crawford called out the right problem but it's been a problem for too long, and it might have been too late for somebody to finally say, whoa. You can fucking pull off this event with all this without
This
all
doesn't
this
be the
going
money's a
on.
problem, though. It seems to be it's Crawford's connection with one single Irishman that seems to be fucking things up here. So, when you go, mate.
No, I was just going to say, Crawford shouldn't be worrying about those things. We all blamed but the fact he was the other side of the street. He's come over from the other side of the street now. So it's not Aram holding up things. It's not Top Rank holding up things. But Crawford remains the same problem. He can't get the big fights all of a sudden. So is he the problem? I don't know. Is that a fight he needs to be taking on right now? I know they wanted him in a 3-fight deal and everything. I really don't know where the truth lies, Matty. I was inclined to blame Spence and Heyman and PBC myself, but I've heard quite a few people, like I said, who I respect, who are seemingly blaming Crawford for this. And I don't know if they know their arse from their elbow behind the scenes. He does have a history of making a lot of bad decisions. So whether he should be taking on that fight with the Watson twins and the admin girls at the moment, I don't know. I really don't know what to think about the whole thing, but the fight's not going to happen now. Spence is not happy about it. Crawford's not happy about it, and they're going to be too old if they're not careful.
How old were Floyd and Manny when they fought?
Exactly, and look at the state of that.
Mid to late 30s at that point.
Still made a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I know, but mate,
right,
listen, they could have made far more. They could have had a rematch. They could have had a fucking trilogy as well. When you think
I
about
don't know, man. That
they could have, man. Listen, all you needed was like a close fight, a competitive fight. Maybe Manny gets a decision in one of the fights. It's the same with fucking Crawford and Spence here. I mean, this fight doesn't happen this year. It's not going to happen, period, because you've got Spence mouthing off about weight issues. Crawford's got his issues with his own, decisions, shall we say, his business decisions. What's going to happen? We're going to wait till they're in their 40s, up at 154, maybe even 160, where they're just trading on name value. They're no longer peak for peak. And we're going to get the fight then, like we go, like the third fight between Leonard and Duran. They fucking strung it out for so many years after the rematch, or in this situation, just talking up all these years. Yeah, you know I'll fucking kill you, don't you? Crawford shouting off in the camera. All these wee fucking side bets that we're having, the face-to-face stare-downs that we were all loving on YouTube. It's going to be for nothing. Absolutely hee-haw. It's not going to happen anymore. And I can see Rob's point. I mean, Rob's at the point where I was at, where Pivec and Wilder fucking fell apart. It's just shit. Absolute shit. And as the question states here, we've been saying this for long enough, all the decent fights, I'm not talking about just like the top fights, anything decent or resembling competitiveness is on pay-per-view. Whereas like your trade fights are on BT and Sky or ESPN Plus. That ESPN card next week, Lomachenko's fucking gash. Terrible. There's no big fights to look forward to. I was so hyped a couple of weeks ago. Steve and Ozzy and Rob will be able to fucking testify to it. When I heard the news that there was one thing holding up the Crawford fight, and they were expecting an announcement within a matter of, wasn't it weeks? It was days away. I was fucking pumped, man. If I had been vaccinated, I'd be fucking looking up to go to it. And within 2-3 weeks, it all starts to fall away. There's the silence isn't golden at this point. And lo and behold, we get some fucking Twitter account who's got like 69 fucking followers somehow bids or is going to pay Crawford millions of dollars. Yeah, there's nothing fucking shady going on in the background.
Motherfucker.
There's nothing shady in the background going on there. I dare say there's a great bunch of lads, good laughs having the background there, but something needs to be fucking cleared here. Actually, something needs to be fucking told. Who's putting the money up? Is it who we think it is? And where's the fight going to happen? Is it going to be happening over in the Middle East? Is that what's going to be happening? Because if it does, I think we can definitely confirm as to who's fucking.
It's happening in Omaha, Nebraska. It's happening in the Midwest.
Is it? Well,
yeah.
See, I'm saying this is the other thing as well, is they could have had another business decision that Crawford maybe fucked up himself, is having these fights in Omaha and sold out arenas. Considering who he's been fighting over the last fucking couple of years, now he'd been better fighting a home run, fighting in Vegas, fucking some of the trash that he's fucking beat up. But I'm the same with Steve, and Rob possibly as well. I'm not speaking for Rob, but I know he was a big Crawford supporter. He was probably putting most of the blame at Spence's door. But at this point here on in, it's Crawford that has to carry the bag. He's to blame, and he's at fault. As for the other part of the guy's question, Fury against AJ, look, there's a shit ton of blame to go around everybody in this case, by the way. Warren, Hearn especially, AJ and Fury. In the day, if these two guys wanted the fight to happen, they would fucking say to the promoters, get it made, but it's not happening. Where else we go? Fury, Chisora pay-per-view. Yeah, again, what did I say? Anything decent, and I know it's not a decent fight, but you know what I'm talking about. you got the heavyweight champ of the world, the lineal heavyweight champ in the world here. He's pay-per-view, obviously, isn't he? White against some bin man on DAZN. Yep, without doubt. Never heard of the guy either. Promoters predicting juiced up fighters. Without doubt, mate. Goes on all the time. DAZN ripping off subscribers. Yeah, that's not even funny, by the way. The fucking basically changed their own terms and conditions so you can't cancel without giving a month's notice, and basically you got to pay that extra month on top of it. So it's just like an absolute shitfest. Now, the other part of the guy's question was, is boxing in danger of fading away and people losing interest? Boxing's been fading away for decades now, but it's still got its hardcore element of support. And unless it's actually got someone who's more mainstream, a guy like an Anthony Joshua coming through to pull in the casuals, for example, then they'll just fall away from the sport. But you always have your hardcore guys watching a faded sport who it no longer makes notes on the back pages. It very seldom comes up on television. You didn't get boxing on terrestrial television much these days like you did back in, when I was a lad anyway, put it that way, 30 years ago. So, look, in my lifetime at least, it's gradually declined in terms of exposure. People losing interest. As I mentioned, my dad doesn't watch it anymore, and he was a big fan growing up in that as well. So, yeah, look, boxing has been shit. I think probably the best year we had, guys, was it 2017, 2018 for fights, when the PBC were kind of kicking off and really trying to kind of like get the big fights made. We'll have proper stack cards, competitive fights on these cards. But it's just went to absolute shit this year. And I don't know if it's ever going to even get any better, actually, to be honest with you, because as I say, we can't get the big fights made. And if it's purely down to cash and the current economic climate that the world's living in just now, surely the fighters and the promoters have got to get a bit fucking sensible here about what can be actually be made and what actually can be paid out. So I think there's that to it as well.
Also, Andy, I do worry about the next stars coming through from a point of view. Like I always say, I said it earlier as well, is people not fighting regularly enough. You used to have guys built up, even on terrestrial TV, like you said, you would have followed their journey from early on through to British Commonwealth and on through the levels, as Ozzy says, and blah, blah, blah. But even the guys like Floyd Mayweather, whenever he fought Oscar, I mean, he'd had 37, 38 fights by that point. By the time he hit the true epoch in 2007 and became the big pay-per-view star, guys now, the likes of the Charlos and that, they're just not active enough to get that momentum, to get people behind them, looking forward to their fights. I think Canelo could be the last of a dying breed of the real superstar, the crossover superstar, because they're just not active enough to people to give a shit about them. Because you're like, oh, I like so-and-so. When's he fighting next? Oh, he hasn't fought for 14 months. Where's he gone? I'm not interested. I'll go and watch something else instead.
But yeah, so it seems to me like you're following a fighter up through his career. Now, like, for example, Nathan Cleverly, look at his early fights, especially his Commonwealth and British title fights were on terrestrial television. I remember the fight against Danny McIntosh, great scrap. There was a lot of talk going in, bit of bullshit going into that fight. You've now got this problem, Steve, coming in here in the next couple of years. The Olympics, boxing, the Olympics is going to be getting banned within the next. I think this one, but it's the one after the French, 2024, I think it is. So what's going to happen to all those Olympians and the amateurs that have been kind of like working toward that Olympic gold with the idea I'm going to turn pro after it? I'll earn some money because I've got a gold medal on top of that as well. I'll put a bit of personality out. They've lost that now as well. So what's going to happen to these amateurs that we're going to maybe stay amateur for maybe an additional 6 years, maybe want to turn over immediately. So you end up maybe getting an influx of fighters with nowhere to go. There's no TV dates. Promoters can't take them on because they've got too many fighters they can't get dates for them. You mentioned PBC, they've got over 200 fighters. Don't fight often enough. Thurman, for example, is supposed to make a comeback. He's had one fight since then. What's he doing these days? Jerome Ennis, as Steve mentioned, 4 minutes he's fought this year. We were lauding this.
You gotta have Ennis. The dates. You gotta have
but
the
mate,
dates.
Boots was a fighter we were all expecting to be. Not so much a breakout star, but the common face of the 147 division. By the time this guy gets his title chance, he came up at 154 because he's too big for the fucking weight. Spence and Crawford are going to be washed and done, within the next couple of years. Just there's no big fights here for us. Just like there's no big fights on DAZN. So all these fucking shitty YouTubers and porn stars getting their opportunities. Maybe that's the way the sport's gone these days. Maybe you need to get a kind of online presence and then go ahead and do it yourself because the fighters haven't given us any fucking fights.
For a more optimistic perspective, Ozzie Smith.
I don't know why you're coming to me if you want more optimism.
Fuck off.
I was going for the intense irony there.
Choose between hanging or the electric chair.
He was watching the heavyweight fights there last night, was Ozzy.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can come on to that. I think we need to just build into the heavyweight fights. I mean, there was not much to review, but what there is to review, there's some serious weight behind them. So yeah, I mean, fucking hell, just look at him there. Where have they plucked him from?
Woo!
Fuck's sake!
Holy mother
Huge.
of God!
I won't mind as well. I think he was. He might not even be the biggest heavyweight on show this weekend as well. So says it all. But no, I don't really have. There he is, yeah, and he won. That fucking fat cunt won as well. Outboxed some young guy, bizarre. But yeah, I can't really have much else to from what was being said. I know I joined quite late in the conversation, apart from the fact that I agree with Andy in the sense that I thought there was real optimism of this fight being made, and I don't mind not getting regular updates, about the fights. If how many times have we heard it, like from Eddie Hearn? He gives an update, and then the other side comes out and quashes it, and things like that. I don't mind if we don't hear anything, apart from if it's little and often, but the positive. And all signs were pointing in that direction to positivity, and it looked at one point that it was genuinely going to happen, the fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. And then from completely out of nowhere, there was a murmur, that things were being held up. And I thought the November date, I think, as you get within the 8-week mark type of thing, 8-10 weeks, it's always going to be a problem if it's not been announced. Not so much for ticket sales, but as well, I think, actually getting things in place. And as soon as you become under 8 weeks, it's just not going to happen, a fight of that magnitude. And then from absolutely nowhere, he announces a fight with David Avanesian, which just so left field from a sense of, well, when did the talks break down between Spence? I mean, ultimately, quite possibly, the fight with Avanesian was probably quite easy to make. He's been after that big payday for a while now. He's defended his European title a number of times. He's probably one of the welterweights that has been prior to this year, because he's obviously been somewhat stuck in Russia because of the war. He was relatively active, but has since struggled for activity. But for Crawford, I mean, I've read, bits and pieces, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Some people are blaming Errol Spence. Other people are blaming Terence Crawford. One thing that has been criticised of Crawford is his dealings in business and who he associates with, which seems to have been a real hold-up. I do wonder what Adrian Broner says. Now, you do usually take what he says with a pinch of salt, but are the PBC struggling to fund the guarantees for cash? This is not, a small fight to make. And ultimately, the one thing I would say about this is I think purses in boxing, particularly at the top level, are almost out of control. And I don't know, unless people, ultimately promoters, stop paying it, it's just not going to, it's going to be difficult because, they keep going up. I mean, DAZN had a big part to play in this when they came on the scene. The money that they were chucking at people. Tevin Farmer won't need to box again because he earned millions of dollars for boxing, relatively, not low level, but, opponents that shouldn't command those sort of purses. What did he pay Mikey Garcia as a one-off? Like $4 or $5 million?
More than that to fucking in that fight with Sandor Martin. And then Jesse Vargas got some ridiculous sums of money. Like, I get the Mikey Garcia miss. Like, he was a very talented guy and he was just done.
Yeah.
You paid him too much, but Mikey was a skilled guy. But some of the guys that they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna spend the money to attract Tevin Farmer's fucking legions of followers and Jesse Vargas's heavily devoted fans to our network. Yeah.
Well, they had Danny Roman at the launch event, didn't they? And paid him a few quid. And I think it's because they couldn't get anybody else there. I think, they came in with this big blast of who they want and ultimately struggled to attract the name. So they just went with, right, we'll chuck loads of money at it. But once fighters get a whiff of it, and then ultimately if you're in that division, you want more. And, purses, I would say, are out of control, and I think there's only so far promoters can do. Promoters can go before they just can't pay them. But this is a big blow for boxing. You know, we've had it. You know, 2 huge fights in, you know, ultimately 3 weeks fall apart. That being Fury Joshua, the other now being Crawford Spence. Now they've both collapsed. Do I think we'll see either fight happen? No, I don't think so. Particularly Fury Joshua, I think that is just done. As for Crawford Spence, I don't think so either. You know, Crawford's come out and said, I'll get Avanesian out the way, and then it's all going to be on Spence. And again, it's something I said last off the back of the Fury Chisora fight. If they announce the Errol Spence fight just after the, you know, the Avanesian fight, then fine. All will be forgotten because people will not care about it. You know, what's just gone on. They'll just be focusing on the big one. But if they don't do that and then they just say, right, we're going to enter negotiations again, people will just lose interest. And, you know, you've seen people losing interest already and they're sick of it. And again, Andy was right. Anything half decent now, you've got to fucking pay for. You've just got to pay for it. Unless you're like people like me who just watch it through other means. But at the same time, you know, anything remotely decent, it's in the UK, 20 quid, 25 quid. In the US, $70, $80. It's pathetic. So it's a real problem at the moment. And ultimately, it runs the risk of, it's already a niche sport, but it's going to run the risk of, you know, people just walking away because, you know, the big fights don't get made and they're sick of just watching trash week in, week out.
Wilder was pay-per-view last week as well, wasn't it, against Hellenius?
Yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, Fury and Wilder are bad examples because it does get to a stage from where some fighters are just are pay-per-view, basically, you know, regardless. And, you know, I would put Wilder in that bracket. I would put Fury in that bracket. I put Joshua in that bracket from the heavyweight perspective of that. They are 3 heavyweights that are huge, drawing big numbers, sell loads of tickets, and their purses ultimately command additional fees. I understand that. It's when you see other shit on the on pay-per-view. Was Andy Ruiz not pay-per-view recently as well? Or am I wrong on that?
Against Luis Ortiz.
Ortiz, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why is that pay-per-view? That is not a pay-per-view fight. I'm sorry. That is just not a pay-per-view fight. Ruiz does not have that clout of a name from where he justifies pay-per-view money. You know, like, I'll put Joe Joyce, Joe Parker in it. That is not a pay-per-view fight. Let's have it right. It's just not pay-per-view. I would say, you know, I get why it was, because they just used the excuse of they need to secure additional funding. But say, for example, 8 to 10 years ago, this fight would not have been pay-per-view, but it would have been made. And this is where I go back to the point of purses are simply out of control. And fighters have had the taste of the big money. And unless they get paid it, they'll just go, I won't bother. I'll get paid, you know, continue to get paid X amount. Prime example, Crawford. I saw somebody say multi-million-dollar payday to fight Avanesian, like, just ludicrous. Where is that money coming from? You know, it reeks of a Don King thing. Yeah, reeks of a Don King thing again already when he had to pay Dubois a fortune to fight that Pillock Trevor Bryan. You know, where was that money coming from? And it didn't appear. And I do wonder for Crawford, is this dough going to appear? I'd want it in an escrow personally. I actually know it's going to be there because it's huge amounts of cash from basically a Z standard promotional outfit. But if you can get paid that, you know, like the guys with DAZN did early on, you're going to take the money because you know your next fight could well be your last. So ultimately, if you've got people willing to stump up that money, they're going to take it, and it just gets in the way, and it just drives the cash up. For you know, this is going to be a career high payday for Crawford, so he's not then going to go into the Spence fight and not want a career high payday. He'll want more because of the magnitude of the fight. It's just, like I say, it's out of control. It's just that the money in boxing is out of control, and ultimately, I just don't know, you know, ways around it anymore. You know, unless basically it's a case of, you know, we're going to stop. We will not pay it anymore. it's incredibly difficult.
I think around pay-per-view as well, Ozzy, the mindset has changed. Whereas we associate pay-per-view back in the day with like the Tyson, De La Hoya, Floyd, millions of pay-per-views being sold. If it's pay-per-view, it's a massive fight. That mindset within the broadcasting people has changed now. Even back on Sky or whenever Crawford, for example, fought Postol, I remember people shitting on that. And Aaron basically said, well, it doesn't have to hit those million sales anymore. If it just hits a certain amount, we can justify it. That's what the PBC are doing. Even though Wilder, they're saying last week made barely 80,000 sales, people will say, oh, that's shit, man, that's terrible. But their justification is, well, if we've made all those sales at $80, even though it's not made loads of money, it's still made us enough money to justify putting it on pay-per-view. Don King used to do that with King Vision all the time with guys like Monty Barrett, John Ruiz. That's the model now.
You're exactly right, and like people say, oh, it's flopped, it's this and that. It results to ticket sales, for example. People saying the Fury Chisora, it's selling slow, it's this and that. It's like it's just done 50,000 in a day. People don't realise how.
And fucking December too as well in a stadium fight.
December outdoors, freezing. The main event is literally a non-event. Yet boxing is. This isn't like the Champions League final, the FA Cup semi-final. Of just a big game. Between United against Chelsea or something like that. Boxing is very niche, very niche. So for any event to do 50,000 tickets in a day is an excellent effort. They don't realise, these people making these stupid comments that. I've been to small hall shows where they're in, say, like bloody hell, hotels basically that hold about 1,200, and there's about 400 people there. I've been to big shows, on Sky, on BT, from where they're in an arena of 10,000, and there's about 2.5, 3, and that's across all your promotional outfits, by the way. I'm not singling anybody out. The big fights, this is what, they bang on about. So your Joshua's, under the big bright lights, where they get loads of publicity. Yeah, it's great. They do 20,000 tickets, that sort of stuff. But then you look at, say, for example, the show what Lee Wood should have been on a few weeks ago. What did that have in there? Ultimately, the main event fell through, but then people wanted refunds. So what was in there? About 2,500, 3. They don't realise how niche it is to sell things like that. So if you've then got a fight which, say for example, I'm seeing people, what are the numbers for Parker Joyce? I've not a clue what they are. But say, say it did 50,000 at 20 quid, something like that. I'd say, that's a great effort. What's it generate that?
That's $1 million.
Quid? Million quid. Yeah, something like £1 million for easy numbers. Well, that's an extra £1 million that they wouldn't have had from any other TV. So if they can do that, I remember. I forget what. I think Warrington Frampton did about 80,000. At say something like 18 quid, something like that, whatever it was, just under 1.5 million. That again. So you make a really good point, Steve. That gone are the days, these pay-per-views that do, like 600, 700, 800,000 buys, which generate huge sums of cash. But ultimately, if you can get, a pay-per-view that does 80,000 buys in the UK at 18, 20 quid, bang, there you go. It's justified itself because realistically, your money there coming through that will be split between, the fighters will pay other purses. Plus, you've then got your ticket sales. Then you've got sponsors. Then you've got the money coming in from your shows from your broadcaster.
And they're sneaking advertisements into the pay-per-view.
Exactly.
Like real commercial.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And those slots, by the way, will not be cheap either. To get in on those bigger, those big pay-per-views, your Furies, Joshua's, Wilders, that sort of stuff. They'll be expensive to get, slots in that.
So your £1 million pay-per-view ends up at about 3 million after you get everything rolling over, and then you can pay out 2 million in purses and still have money in there left over. Unfortunately, it's what they're doing with that leftover money that's just blowing my mind. They're wasting it on just bullshit. There's and Ames mentioned it earlier. I pulled the comment down, but just the lack of overall competitive fights on all levels just blows your mind. And
well, I was
going
going to say
they can't produce that with this money that's left over. What the fuck?
Well, it's not as if, we're seeing these, these pay-per-views stacked with deep undercards as well. So a lot of them, I mean, I've always said, for the huge fights, I couldn't really care about an undercard. Put 3 fights on the show. Have your main events. So, for example, that that Tyson Fury Dillian White undercard. I'll just pull it up now, but from memory, it wasn't very good. But the main event itself, I mean, we all predicted Fury would win and quite comfortably. But I would rather have just 3 fights on that, and from a TV perspective, and just go straight into it, no problem. Instead, they'll make they'll make like an event of it, and it drags it out, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's one of them. We're not seeing the deep cards that we've seen previously on other pay-per-view shows either. It's it's just like you say, what are they doing? I get it's a business and everybody is in it to make money. Otherwise, what is the point? But yeah, so I mean, for example, look, to be fair, there was a couple of decent fights on it. Isaac Lone, Nick Ball, great fight. Echo Esserman, Darren Tetley, decent. If you then removed David Adelaide against Chris Healy, Tommy Fury against Daniel Bojanski, Kurt Walker against Stefan Nikolai, Karol Atuma against Michael Chiak, and Royston Smith against Konstantin Rodoy, would anybody be upset apart from, the 1,000 people that tuned in to watch these sort of people and bought tickets? Not really. But your top 3 ones, that would do for me, that. But that's never going to happen. And it's going to be interesting to see the Fury Chisora undercard. I mean, they've done what they need to do. They've sold, pretty much 3/4 of the stadium out already. From what I've been told, there's a few decent fights lined up for it. Whether they now stick with it or not, I'm not too sure. But I think even Mendy's defending his European title. Tommy Patrick Ward's in a world title eliminator. They're the stuff you want to see. Don't think we're ever going to see the days of, where was it Don King on one of the best, pay-per-view cards I think we could ever. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that ever again. And a result back to what the purses are on offer. But all you want is just some quality and depth in the card. And I've said they are not difficult to build good boxing cards. At the weekend, Michael Gomez Jr. against Brian Phillips, by all accounts, from some people who were there, it's the best fight that they have ever seen. And this is from people who have seen a hell of a lot of fights across a hell of a lot of shows. And what was that? A central area belt. 2 lads, evenly matched. That probably cost the purses between both, I'd say, 10 grand between 2. I mean, and that'd be very good. I'm saying probably less. So that's what I mean. Boxing fans are easily pleased. They're not bothered about the big names. They're not bothered, about, Tommy Fury and people like that. They just want to see good competitive fights, whether that be at area level, English level, European level, British level. It doesn't matter what level. It doesn't matter what belt is on the line. But if 2 fighters are evenly matched, 9 times out of 10, it will produce the cuts. Now, on the odd time, a fight will fall, 2 styles won't gel. But on paper, you would say this is a decent fight, but that can happen. And, you can't criticize the promoter for that, because ultimately that just happens in boxing. But there is not enough effort to stack these cards and make them deep, because you don't get the time from the TV outlets, in my opinion, anymore. And there is an obsession with rushing fighters to try and get them to the top. And I blame the sanctioning bodies for this, because they rank people who aren't good enough to win a British title. So Conor Benn, for example, is in the top 8 or 6 of the WBA. He's never boxed for a domestic title. Never boxed for one. How is that even possible? And it's not as if, he was this high-profile amateur, by the way, that, turned over and basically skip through the levels, like like a Lomachenko did, that's absolutely fine. From what Lomachenko did. But Ben, fuck me, he's a novice and he's never boxed for a domestic title yet, because these ranking belts basically give you a false ranking. You then you're then able to, I'm 5 in the world, 10 in the world, something like that. It's bullshit. Frank Warren's a master at it. WBO European, top 15. I'll bang out 3 or 4 nobodies. Next thing, I'm mandatory. Fantastic for a quick payday, but longevity in the career, it doesn't work. I think I've mentioned it before, but the last British fighter that was built properly, going from area level right up to world level, was Josh Warrington. Probably prior to that was Billy Joe Saunders.
Nathan Cleverly.
Did Selby go that route too?
Selby, was another one. Yeah, pretty much Welsh, that sort of stuff, British, those sort of things. Yep. And he, and what did they all have in their careers? Longevity, because when they got to the top, they stayed there. They defended titles. They got good defenses, decent paydays, that sort of stuff.
Well, and they didn't take that huge leap where you might end up with somebody you could beat a year and a half or 2 years, but instead you're getting your confidence knocked the shit out of you and you're never the same.
Exactly, yeah. So to flip the argument, the example of like the new breed is Anthony Hard. Had it all his own way, coming through, gets this false ranking, and then pretty much from nowhere becomes mandatory for Sergey Kovalev. Gets battered for the majority of the fight, but has one good round from where, realistically, had he have had a couple of good learning fights, on the way, he might have well have got Kovalev out of there because he knew what to do. But instead, he blew his load in that one round and was knackered for the remaining, 2 or 3 rounds of the fight. But had he have had those tests coming up, he might well have then won at world level. And instead, I mean, he did far better than, any of us predicted. But still, you relate back to the matchmaking. He'd been in with shit. So surprisingly, he didn't have a fucking clue what to do when A, he came up against somebody who could box competently, and B, hit him back with a real dig. And it showed in the Lyndon Arthur fight the first time round. Arthur just kept him on the end of a jab. And Yard had no clue what to do. And again, when you're boxing people against somebody you're going to beat, you're not being tested. Steve, I'll let Steve come in, but he said the same about Daniel Dubois, who I think is a real talent. But again, he had it all his own way coming through, and then was thrown into the Joyce fight, which ultimately I thought, he could win. And it was a really close fight up until the stoppage. But still, though, he was matched, just against absolute fucking cowboys. Ebenezer Tete, bloody Richard Larty, people like that. The Gorman fight was great. Fantastic.
Mr. Fujimoto, don't forget him.
Yeah, fucking Fujimoto, yeah. Who the fuck is Fujimoto? Where did they pluck him from? Again, but what was it? It was for a bauble, like, WBC belt. Fujimoto was bizarrely in, like, the top 18 of some ranking. Fuck knows how. But he was an absolute cowboy. He was a no-mark. So, yeah, it was just... and there is too many of those now, and it owes to, promoters playing the game. I think broadcasters want the, belts on the line, and they want quick wins rather than you've not got the time now to build a fighter properly unless you're willing to do it off TV. But then they're not going to do that because they don't build a profile.
Well, it's like we were talking about, you got to like match fighters really well. And if they got back to the art of matching fighters well, more people would tune in. People want to be entertained. That's all there is to it. We want to be entertained. And if you flip over and you see a couple of guys trading punches and you don't know what way it's going to go, you might just stop and stay. But I mean, I think back to some of the fights that I've really enjoyed over the years. And they range from HBO cards to you got to find them from, they're off the main telecast stuff, to Friday Night Fights, which is off the air. And we lost a great place to watch evenly matched fights on that one. You go back to Emmanuel Burton against Mickey Ward on there. God, both those guys had plenty of losses at that point in time in their careers. But what a war!
Pavel Wallach against Delvin Rodriguez, that first fight.
Yeah.
Friday night fight.
What a fight. Oh, God. What didn't fucking Wallach get like swole up like
Yeah,
a
it was like
Wallach
living
used to
there.
bleed for fun, didn't he? Every fight him.
Well, and then here's one that was off the main telecast. Did you guys ever see Carson Jones against Saeed Ali? Great fucking fight.
not
Great
too
fucking
sure.
fight.
Saeed Ali once got thrown out the ring by Randall Bailey. I remember that.
Top
That's
rope,
awesome.
In Belgium, yeah. Floyd was at
Top
ringside,
rope,
bizarrely.
that's right,
Yeah,
aye.
but then you got let's see here. Irving Garcia against Juan Carlos Abregu. That was a 4-round fight, showbox. Great freaking
Oh,
fight.
yeah, I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, great fight. And, Abregu had his moment. He ended up beating Delorme. I saw that one coming. Delorme's so damn vulnerable. But anyways, that was a great fight on Showbox. But then HBO. Then you have Juan Manuel Marquez against Juan Diaz. Their first fight, one of my favorite fucking fights of all time. The problem is HBO is gone. Friday Night Fights is gone. Wednesday Night Fights is gone. You have all these different platforms, but I almost think, and just fill me out on this, Rob. You're more of an old school guy. I think that a lot of the guys that really understood the art of matchmaking are either retired, dead, or have been forced out of the business by Top Rank, PBC, these huge companies.
Or other indeed. Look, I don't know. I had a particularly fucking bad week for boxing this week when I heard about the fucking Crawford announcement. I'm sure you've covered all that already.
That's part of our pitch, Rob. Part of our pitch.
Yeah, I was looking. I said to the guys, I was looking up fixing the roof today after the storm last night, and pulled out of the attic fucking nothing exciting, just boxing posters from when I was a kid, or whatever. But they were all pullouts from Boxing Monthly magazine, Fighter of the Month, kind of 90 to 91, and every month there was a big fight, every month, and now we spend our time fucking passing time spending 6 months, 7 months, 8 months talking about fights that might never happen between two very good fighters in a sport where they fucking might never ever fight each other. And every year we roll into the calendar year, and I've been on the pod 5 years now, and every year we roll into the calendar year, and for the 5 years I've been on it, the fight that I wanted to see is Bud Crawford Spence. We're going to be going on 6 years, and we still won't have seen it. So there's been a change. I'd say there's a number of determining factors in that. Obviously the money, social media and all that, fighters have figured that they can make money on their own. They don't need to be just and that's good. I'm all for, I said that before a million times, I want the fighters to get paid as much money as possible, get more than the Premier League footballers, get more than the NBA, get more than the American footballers, because it's more fucking dangerous. But that can't be at the expense of the fans, and that's what's after happening with I think HBO going out of the sport was terrible for the sport. I think they left a vacuum that hasn't been replaced by DAZN, Showtime, or PBC. None of them have been able to correctly fill that. You got promoters and their egos, you got fighters and their egos, you got their fucking fan bases. It's just too much going on with boxing at the moment. There's no one single regulatory body, and I think that's what kills us as well, because there's nobody to say, hold on, get your fucking, there's no kind of, I'm not saying FIFA when it comes to soccer or fucking anything that you should be basing your moral compass on or whatever, but I think if we had one kind of single regulatory body where you could get a hold, at least you could go somewhere and say, hold on for a fucking second here, let's get these two in the ring. Because if that was the UFC, I know UFC is not a sport itself, it's a franchise, and MMA is the sport. But if that's UFC, and Dana White has two guys like Bud and Errol Spence, you think you're waiting fucking 5 years to see the fight?
Guess who you're fighting in 2 months, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah. You think you're waiting fucking 5 years for these fellas to fucking figure it out? And I don't give a shit at this stage who's culpable, who's to blame, who's fucking holding it up, who's at fault, which I'm sure is Bud Crawford from all the fucking online research or whatever. But it's just shitty. It's an awful time to be a fan of boxing. Awful time. When I think back, what are the big fights? What are the big fights that have been made over the last 10 years, say?
Floyd
and Manny, but they were
which was 5 years past the sell-by date.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the Matty, and that they could have had 2-3 fights if they fucking
Jimmy,
fought earlier.
Exactly.
Canelo and Cotto.
Do you mean Prime versus Prime?
Well, just the big fight. So think about it, right? So we had Manny and Floyd, which was 5 years over past its sell by date. Absolutely, right? No disputing that. We had Golovkin and Canelo, where Canelo pops after the fucking fight and the decision is wrong. We have fucking Wilder versus Fury, who ended up fighting each other because they couldn't make the fucking Wilder versus Joshua fight or the fucking Fury versus Joshua fight. So we have these two fighting each other.
To be fair, on that though, at least it happened 3 times as well, which. Yeah,
but it was it was an accidental value, like because of other factors. You know, we still didn't get the one we wanted. Like
Canelo Cotto was a big fight that got made.
I don't think it was, Matty. Honestly,
it did over a million buys.
Anytime a Puerto Rican and a Mexican are fighting each other, you're going to get big numbers. But Cotto was on the way down as well, or else he wouldn't have been fucking fighting Canelo at that stage. You know that way?
Who are you gonna feel sorry there for? It was like they'd been fighting at catch weights, and fucking Martinez was crippled when Cotto took the title.
Canelo
Martinez is the one you feel sorry for.
But yeah, it just was what it was. Like Sergio, like there are guys that get left out in the cold. Like Sergio Martinez should have had some big fights, you know, fucking after he beat Pavlik, and he was just stuck fighting fucking Brits for fucking the last 4 years of his career until he fought Cotto.
Some of the best things to happen to the sport,
Brits and Irishmen,
some of the best things to happen to the sport in the last 10 to 15 years was probably, and it was beset with some problems in that as well, without doubt, but at least you got close to the best fighting the best, and it was the World Boxing Super Series and the Super.
I was just going to say that,
and that, you know, and as I say, it got the attention that I was willing to fucking travel fucking the length and breadth of Europe to go and watch these fucking fights. That's the reason. That's so much interest I had in it.
Andy, if you remember, none of the promoters involved with that were in the A-class promoters. So they were all guys who were forced to the table to make a deal to maximize their assets. Because who were the promoters that were involved in that one? But I know. Who were the promoters that were involved in that, though? You had
mainly Nieces Ireland and Calla, I think, but they were working.
And then you had Mick, because you had Hennessy that was in there. Didn't Hennessy promoted Froch at the beginning, wasn't it?
You're on about the Super 6.
Oh yeah,
which was, you know, so that was like Ward, Froch.
My apologies.
I'm
still stuck in that. I'm like, that was great.
That was and that again, though, to be fair, I mean, you're right on that. The World Boxing Super Series did have a lot of other promoters involved, but they not sacrificed, but they gave people like, you know, for example, Callum Smith was put into that because ultimately he was going nowhere else, but then came out of it and made fucking truckloads of cash. So yeah, I mean, it depends what we define as big fight. Do we do it as ticket sales? Do we do it as something that? Because I could argue, you know, Joshua Vladimir Klitschko, big fight, but is it one of them that, you know, we're really, really going for? I'm not so sure.
That was
Josh
optics,
Taylor,
wasn't it? Because Joshua was filling in the void of fucking Fury leaving the division. But I suppose what I mean is, like, fellas who are the best in their division fighting each other when they're at their best.
So,
it's like a rarity, isn't it?
I mean, because I wouldn't even put Fury Klitschko up at that, because Fury was kind of an unknown quantity. I know that was a mandatory shot. I'd say the few and far between in terms of the biggies. You know, I would say Canelo Golovkin 1. You know, forget what happened after it, but I would say Canelo Golovkin 1 is definitely up there. I'm trying to think of any of the little weights, which, you know,
it was Rodrigo and Nuthouse.
That was the other one we waited 10 years.
Yeah, and to be honest, those little weights are probably ones that, you know, actually, you know, basically do deliver more, because they've kind of no choice really but to do it, because you know, the depth isn't necessarily there, or the funds aren't there to do that. From heavyweight, you know, if we're just talking about the best fighting the best, none whatsoever. Cruiserweight, definitely. That was because of the World Boxing Super Series. You know, in terms of the best fighting the best, were they necessarily big fights? I'm not so sure, you know, in terms of, you know, cash generated, you know, views, that sort of stuff. I don't know. But in terms of best fighting the best, then yeah, you know, we saw Usyk fight Bradis and Gassiev, who, you know, I think many would argue were comfortably the top 3 in that division. Light heavyweight. Did we see a light heavyweight in the Super Series or not? I can't remember.
No, it was 168,
No.
because a few fighters came down
Yeah,
from
it was.
175. It was Bremer and Skoglund came down from
Yeah, that's it.
175.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did we see any biggies at? Well, no, because who was it at light heavy? Adonis Stevenson was around for a bit, but he never fought. Trying to
Kovalev.
think.
It was
Yeah,
Kovalev
we
because
never
of the
saw that.
HBO
Yeah,
Showtime situation.
I'll tell you what. Could argue Kovalev Ward. The best fight in the
Yeah, I was
best.
going to say that.
I
That was.
suppose.
But look at the
Kovalev
result
Ward. Yeah.
again.
That was the HBO.
The fucking result was it was a stinker that night. Like
Close,
not
yeah, but
the close fight, but
that's
you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's
first
beside
fight,
the point now. But yeah, that's beside the point. But yeah, let's it's thingy. We've got the what's it called? It was made. Kovalev Ward, best fight in the best. Yeah, correct. Super middle. Again, trying to think. Real biggies at 168. I mean, the tournament produced some, but was it ultimately? Well, yeah, probably was, because that was a division that didn't have loads of depth as such from memory. Then you've got.
Well, you had a Super Series at 2 rounds of Super 6 at 68, didn't we? Like, so you got the first one, you got Frotch and Ward, which was, I suppose, the two best in the division at that stage, like in their prime. Like,
you'd had Charlo at 54, final the belts, for example, taking on Harrison and.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, yeah, you've got any like undisputed fights or anything like you've just got to include, yeah. But I think this shows it that they don't spring to mind quite easily.
Josh
which
Taylor
shows
against Ramirez and possibly even Prograis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, go ahead,
absolutely. But yeah, they're few and far between.
It's just one. As in the words of the great Snoop Dogg, if it ain't one thing, it's the motherfucking other. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've got Bud Crawford signing with a company called BLK Media to do a pay-per-view fight versus David Avanesian, who's, in my view, a respectable opponent and probably better than some of Crawford's recent fucking outings. But, like, it's a company whose background is in film production, who has a partnership with fucking Eddie Murphy's cousin, right? And the president of Belize. And they're putting up 10 million for Terence
Belize,
Crawford.
you say, mate? What's Belize good for these days?
Well, it's a nice place, I hear.
Yeah, so I hear.
They've got some YouTube talking head involved as well, apparently.
I hear they've got the army training out there, but what's the other place that Belize is good for? Oh, that's right. Drug trafficking, that's the other thing.
English is their official language, Andy. I'm not saying they would understand you, but English is their first language.
But they're putting up a $10 million guarantee for Terence Crawford to fight David Avanesian and charging $49 for the pay-per-view, and they've never done a fight before in their lives. Like, I mean, look, I don't want to cast aspersions here, and this is all alleged based on Crawford's alleged fucking links to certain advisors and all in Saudi. But if this is not the biggest fucking money laundering fucking scheme that's ever been played out in fucking daylight, and the sense behind it, thinking of the choice of it coming out and the timing of it based on the sanctions that are already imposed on the alleged advisor, like, it doesn't bode well for the sport, even like this fight being made. And I'm, Terence Crawford's fucking number one fan, man. Like, I've been saying over the years, I think he's a throwback. He probably could have operated in the glory days of the fucking 80s. Honeygater and Starling and Breland and all that, but we'll never know now. Like, we'll fucking never know. He's going to be 36 years of age by the time he fights fucking Errol Spence, if that fight ever gets made. And Spence has already dropped the hint. He's going to 54. So we'll never see the fight. Like, and it just fucking encapsulates everything that's wrong with boxing at the moment. It's so hard to fucking be a fan of boxing at this particular time. Like,
that's the thing as well, mate. That's the other thing as well.
Corruption, judges, fucking promoters, fucking fighters and their ego. It's just rotten. Sorry, let's go ahead.
See if Spence goes to 54 too, you just know, he's never going to fight Charlo because they've got the same trainer and they're fucking mates. Remember back in the day when Ali fought, was it Jimmy Young? And they both had Angelo Dundee as their trainer, but they still somehow managed to make a fight between the two of them. So you got these excuses. Oh, I'll never fight my mate.
I agree, Andy. I hate that shit, man. Oh, he's my brother, he's my dog, all this type of shit.
Exactly,
fuck off, fight each other. This is the hurt game.
This is your job, man.
That's why the best thing that could happen is for Zoo to beat Charlo, even though I doubt it will happen.
Well, who knows? Maybe Charlo's taking his eye off the ball because they seem to be living the good life, the fruits of the labours. Tim Zoo's maybe hungry coming up.
Yeah,
know,
and
man.
he got a couple operations, got himself fixed. I think his hands were fucked or something like that. But
there you go. You just
we're gonna move on. But I'm gonna get one last word. I'm gonna be the optimist here. I'm gonna be the optimist here. We're looking at this like it's an economy. When things collapse, you clear out the junk. The people who are more efficient, who are offering a better product, rebuild the market. Okay. And that's if the government doesn't go and bail them out. And they do
I'm
that.
gonna say real life matches
when they
bail out the losers. Come on.
But guess what, Steve? Nobody gives a fuck about boxing. Who's going to be there to bail us out? So we might be in for a period of a couple of rough years. I don't know what the fallout's going to be. I don't know what the out is going to be. But I do think that either somebody is going to just start putting together the cards because it has to get done, or all of the people involved in boxing are going to be forced to the point of like, look, we have to make this happen for any of us to make money. Let's get across the aisle and make this shit happen with some of those fights that we really want to happen, but are held up by politics. So
but it's not just politics, like it's dark forces at play as well. Like on what planet is Bud Crawford worth a $10 million guarantee versus David Avanes?
I don't
give a fuck how good Bud Crawford is.
He deserves it more than Andre Berto deserved $1 million to fight Freddie Hernandez. He deserves it more than Mikey Garcia got $7 million to fight Sandor Martin.
No, like
but $10 million to fight David Avanesian, all due respect, is bollocks, man.
You guys are the ones who. Well, we've all been saying Avanesian deserves a good opponent. Here we are.
But it does. But mate,
he'll only be getting about $250,000 of it.
Exactly.
Maddie's just happy that this pay-per-view is only $49.99 for him. It's a fucking.
No, I'm happy it's in Omaha because I think I might
yeah.
go to the fight. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll buy some programs. We can hive them off from the podcast then.
Okay.
The thing was, it's they tease you as well, like these press announcements. The fight's close. It's almost done. If the fight's nearly here, blah blah blah.
All
and
terms agreed.
Yeah, both parties they just agree in the guarantees.
But the contract signed.
From what I'm hearing online, and from certain other circles in boxing, is that the hold-up was Bud's alleged involvement with a certain advisor based in Dubai. You remember Bud, of course, famously posted an Instagram post, didn't he, of him out in the sea saying he was looking for the big fish. Well, where was he when he fucking posted that? Dubai.
Goodbye.
So, like, if he is going to go to the trouble of fighting out his fucking top rank contract and fulfilling his obligations under his top rank contract with the sole purpose of fucking coming out the other end to fight Errol Spence, and that's all the noise he was making, and Bob couldn't deliver him Spence, he's going to go get him himself. What is going on in his fucking brain to get involved there in the current climate? The fight's never going to happen, like, never. And if we do see it now, Spence will probably end up beating the shit out of him because he's going to be too old by the time the fight happens, like. So I really wanted that fight, man. I really wanted to see it. It would have been the fight for me to see in terms of fucking interest for over any fight, I'd say, for the last 3 or 4 years anyway. And now I just can't fucking believe it's not going to happen. Like, it's so fucking pathetic. The sport's in this shit, like.
Well, let's see what Matthew Butters asked us here. Oh, God. Question that is maybe mostly for Maddie. Are we in an era of female boxing where the top fighters can be thought of in the same breath as the other top fighters of the era? When I think back to the previous years, the only female boxer that stands out to me is Layla Ali. When we look back, will the Guot, Savannah, Serrano, Mayer, etc. be looked at as greats of this era, like someone may think of Canelo, GGG, etc.? That's a good question, and I think the answer is no, because of the depth of competition, but in the greater scheme of things, they're going to be looked at as the real generation of trendsetters in women's boxing who help to increase the talent pool, who will make for the fighters who will end up with the resumes where they can be discussed with the great male fighters of their day. And also maybe of all time. You never know the talent that's coming out. Shields, obviously an exceptional fighter. Taylor, an exceptional fighter. I obviously sing the praise of Serrano. Mayer, I really like Michaela Mayer, and that might just be because I have a super crush on her, but that's a totally different story. But I think like if you look at like Michaela Mayer, like in the
long
grand,
backs, don't you, Maddie? Like the old long backs.
Michaela Mayer's Michaela Mayer's kind of like that Corey Spinks kind of fighter. She'll pick up a couple of titles here and there, but never exciting enough to get anybody on their feet based on style alone. And so therefore no one would really talk about her years down the road, but that doesn't mean she wasn't skilled. She's incredibly skilled.
Apart from Adam Smith and Matthew Macklin, who couldn't fucking stop singing her praises for the first 4 rounds last week. Jesus Christ. No, I think some of the female fighters will be referred to as greats, undoubtedly. I mean, being Irish or whatever probably resonates more. Katie Taylor, but I can't stress it enough. Like, that's why I don't even like doing the impression. She's a saint over here. Like, it's Saint Katie Taylor. She's a national hero. Like, and I think her achievements in amateur boxing and what she's done in the pro ring definitely entitle her to go down as one of the greatest women fighters of all time. I don't know if the sport itself would even, I don't know, the fan base or whatever would ever regard women fighters in that.
There was a big thing that came out, Rob, which says she's the most marketable fighter in the world. Which for me
above Floyd
says it all.
Above Floyd as well, apparently.
But yeah, but I don't know if it's dubbed as active fighters or not. I didn't read into it, but yeah, I would say there's 2 that will be thought of that, and that will be Taylor and Shields. Although Shields, you made a point then about Michaela Mayer, about Matty, that she won't get people, on the feet, and excited, and Shields doesn't either. She's got a pretty boring style, and that's shown in a lot of her fights. Taylor's had some brutal fights, particularly, the Delphine Pursoon ones spring to mind, and they got people excited, and were certainly on the feet.
In New York too, the classic fighting Irish kind of style. I think that was perfect.
Yeah,
in those fights.
Well,
exactly.
And the fight with Serrano, I mean, it exceeded any expectations we could have
had. Yeah. So, but I think the rest of them, I mean, I don't know why Savannah Marshall's on there. Serrano, possibly, but I think she's won a lot. I think she won a lot of the world titles before women's boxing was really, hitting the headlines of such. But she might well do. But I would say Taylor and Shields would be the 2 that I want to put them in the same bracket, but I could, as a comparison, yes. The rest, I don't see anybody coming through anytime soon. And
if she would fight more,
people. Sorry, Matty, man.
Go real quick, just Sinisa Estrada, and then right to you. If Sinisa Estrada would fight more, she'd be mentioned in the breath because she's won weight class across multiple divisions. She can punch. East LA fighter. Sinisa's the real deal, but she needs to get in the fucking ring more often. Rob?
No, I was going to say, I think a lot of people will remember Vivian Obanoff.
You certainly do. Undefeated herself.
She's good at wiping the old memories herself, but I think some people will remember.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is important in this era is, and I think this is when we're talking about the decline of boxing just a moment ago, and thanks, Matt, for this question, and then we'll move on. But I think one of the most important things that we can say is that these big events for women's boxing have come around, and the women have delivered. We have had a couple of really good action fights, actually 3 good action fights, because you had Cruz Dezern and God damn it, I forgot her damn opponent's name. It'll come to me when it doesn't matter. And then you had a good boxing match in there with Mayer against Baumgardner as well. So these women are delivering on this big stage. And so often when this big stage is there for the men, they've let us down, right? So that's where you got to hand it to the women, is they get the gravity of the moment and they're just going for it. And they're creating a future for women in the sport.
Does the 2-minute rounds enable themselves to go for it more?
The 2-minute rounds, I think that you might be right on that. And Steve, I honestly think, and I've said this before, I think, just come from politics, I think when you try to ask for everything, you end up getting nothing. And I think pushing for 12 twos is the way we kind of bridge the gap, and maybe we end up.
We need to change men's fights to 10 twos. I think, Matty, that's what we need to do.
Especially some of the heavyweight sloths that Ozzy
We
was
need-
watching last night.
You know, Steve, no, we don't want to lose the 36 minutes of boxing. I say 18 twos.
Okay.
I think sometimes a good 2 minutes of action is enough for the women. You know that way?
That is the point. You know, just much like the cards, you're not so much worried about the depth as you are about the width, right, Rob?
Depends what talent pool you're operating in, Matty, doesn't it really?
Yeah. if it resembles throwing a sausage down Socky Hall Street, then no.
Sake.
Oh God.
That's what you get on the slow week from Rob Kell. There you go.
Oh, we can take it right in slurry, no problem. We can go even the depths of despair if you want. Like.
Guys, so I've been trying to fill out some jokes, like just like I don't know, like try like a tight 3 stand-up or something. So feel this one out for me. So a boxing trainer walks into the gym and he looks around and he sees one of the female fighters that he works with. Working with one of his assistants, and he hollers out and he says, "Hey, how long you been on the pads?" And she says, "What? I use tampons."
I bet she was I bet she was I bet she
I appreciate the feedback, Rob.
I bet she was wet in the otter's pocket getting fucking pulled that one.
A new drum roll sound effect to come in soon, Maddie.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Matt, for that. Let's go to Ryan Preston, right? Let's see here. Ryan Preston says, do you feel boxing would benefit from a return to the original 8 weight divisions with only fights at those weights being sanctioned as a result? Ridiculous catchweight fights as seen recently would never happen, and there would be more competition in the original 8 divisions, and boxing as a whole would be less confusing. Andy, go ahead.
Nope, because we're seeing it just now, even though we've got, 18, 19 divisions just now, you've got fuckers coming down 2 weight divisions just trying to cram themselves in. So again, you would probably have, which is bad enough, guys then packing on the weight afterwards. If you cut down the 8 divisions, you end up guys absolutely draining and killing themselves trying to make the lowest weight possible. And they kind of go up 2 weight, 3 or 3 weight divisions in some cases because they're too small. And they would be competitive and they would get iced. And again, fighter safety meant to be paramount. What I think they need to sort out really is the cheating of the weight. Drug testing is another thing, obviously, in that as well. Me and Steve were talking about it on Thursday night, talking about Guillermo Jones using diuretics or that type of thing. But I don't think going back to the 8 divisions is going to help matters, to be fair. I mean, what you could have is a lot of over the weight fights. So, for example, if you've maybe got a champion who is active but isn't fighting title fights, and say he takes an L, for example, like did in the old days. So if you took an L to someone when you're champion in a non-title fight, that person automatically, or the public cry was, well, that guy deserves a title fight because he beat the champion, gave him a shot at the title, and the rematch would probably happen somewhere down the line. But I think fighters are cheating the weight far too much. When we talk about UFC guys jumping 30, 40 pounds in the space of 72 hours, sometimes it's just not healthy. And one of these days you're going to end up, well, not one of these days, you end up with more injuries, maybe even more deaths. And at a point, whereas we've said before, consider how barbaric the sport can be, the amount of shysters that work in it, operate in it, and get money off it. I've said before that there comes a point possibly that maybe boxing served its fucking term. It served its term, really, because all you hear about is the sleaze and the fucking he said, she said, and this fucker's to blame. And on the top of it all, it's the detriment to the fights. We didn't get good fights in that as well, or very seldom do we get good fights. So I think even delaying opportunities as well, taking down the divisions, I think it would then reduce fighters' opportunities for other title fights, shall we say. I mean, you could go even one further if that guys want to go down to 8 divisions, get one title. But again, you back up the entire sport for fucking years for guys trying to get title fights. And then, that's another issue. So maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong manner, but I think if you did have the 8 divisions, you would have guys killing themselves to make weight, who are either, and then obviously they've got to go up in weight. Say the difference between light heavyweight and heavyweight is fucking massive. That's 30 pounds. If you go up to like Tyson Fury's level, you gain up 60, 70 pounds in some cases,
Isn't the UFC like that? It has less weight divisions, and you see, I think the knock-on effect would be a massive uptake in the old Drogos. And you'd see some brutal mente knockouts there from fellas juiced to the fucking gills going up 14 pounds. So yeah, I don't know about that.
Of course, they brought in these wee gloves. They brought in the big paddy gloves. Bring in the 6 ounces. That's what you should do.
I just don't think you can take it wholesale, right? Like, I don't think it's a bad idea to dump some weight classes, even though we've, have developed history in them and stuff like that. But I think it's like, what do you cut off? I don't think you should get rid of cruiserweight. You shouldn't add bridger weight for sure. But maybe you don't need 108 pounds and 115 pounds. Maybe you could have a 105, 112, 118 pound division. I think when you start getting up where the jumps and weights are like in the 7 pounds and more area, those might just need to exist. But when you're talking 3 pounds, I know it's percentages, but seriously.
Yeah, but those are divisions, mate, that are not really on the public's eye. I mean, welterweight.
Yeah, cram all the talent into one division. Cram all the talent into one division.
The heavyweight, obviously, the heavyweight division is obviously the flagship. You win the title, you're the baddest man on the planet, or used to be at least. But going down like some below bantamweight or light welterweight for that matter, not many people are really bothered unless it's a fucking breakout star. It's must-watch TV,
I tell you what, there's one guy that can lead the sport back to greatness and definitely appeal to the wider audience.
Simon Jordan.
I'm not even being sarcastic. Ozzy will back me on this. It's Deontay motherfucking Wilder. They need Deontay Wilder to be the fucking head, the face of boxing. Canelo shit the bed. He's gone onto an app. Nobody's going to see it unless you're fucking buying fights on Mexican Independence Day. You're not going to see who Canelo's fighting. And he's jumping up and down weight divisions and fucking having legacy fight. It's just, it's boring now. It was good there when he was at 68 cleaning out the division, but there's not much left for Canelo to do. So Fury's going to retire soon. Fucking AJ's going to be hanging around there, fucking fighting nobody's on a world tour for the next 18 months. Let's get Wilder in the fucking as soon as he can in for a belt again, because I was looking. Me and Ozzy for the last 2 weeks have been doing nothing but bigging up Wilder. But when you think about it, like, even what made me think of that point was you're talking about the weight divisions. Look how much fucking weight he's given up to Fury. He's given up fucking 2.5 stone to him each time he's fought him. So yeah, he got smashed around in the fucking second fight and he disgraced himself with the egg weight comments and all. But he's mad as fuck anyway, man. He just released a rap video. Just let him do what he wants. He's batshit, but he's fucking entertainment value, and he can probably beat every other heavyweight out there. The only one I probably see giving him problems will be Joyce, because even Usyk, he's going to catch him at some stage. He fucking catch him at some stage. And can Usyk hold that? Like, I don't know.
Well, we Rob, have to see. You're right about the weight. I mean, Usyk was heavier against Joshua than Wilder was against Helenius.
He's 6'7", 15.5 stone, and he punches like nothing I've seen before. Like, he's knocking out fellas going backwards, and I think Malik Scott was making some good points during the week, and I think like he's a bit of a boxer-sized Ben, man. He released like photos of his training notes and all, where a lot of it is like keeping Wilder's mental state on track, like, and preaching positivity and stuff. But he made like just a subtle adjustment, and he's talking about the knockout. And that guy that Wilder was going for, like almost like the old John L. Sullivan extended hand with a curled upwards towards the sky. He was he was calling it the high hand guard, and he said the reason he was doing it was just like wasn't keeping Wilder on the edge of the jab where fellas have the chance to kind of slip and get into range. When Wilder at 6'7" holds his stance like that, people have to peep their head around. And the way he said it, he was like, "You peep your head around that guard, and your life's on the line, and all it takes is 1 second." And your fucking lights are out. And he's like, he's going to be the best heavyweight in the world. Now, I know Malik Scott has to say all that. Like, I understand that. But I just think, like, if it could come to fruition and he could somehow get Wilder back as the main man in heavyweight boxing, just with the excitement that it'd bring and the lack of fucking opposition for him, I think he could make for some real interesting nights, especially if he does get to AJ along the way. If this fucking AJ and Fury fight, I don't think it'll ever happen now, like another one. So I think Wilder could fucking lead the charge there, and the Americans love him in that. Like, I think he could really fucking bring some excitement back and crossover appeal. But outside of that, who's going to do it? Like,
dude, it's just unreal how he generates that power too. He's just his legs are like, they look like the fucking stilts that keep up houses on the Amazon. It's just, the guy he's just all torso.
Isn't he signed to fight? Haven't they signed to fight Ruiz next?
It sounds like that's happening.
Yeah,
And it's
that's fucking big night as well. Like that's really exciting. Like,
well, and you're getting the Hispanic boxing audience and the black boxing audience into it, as well as all the Americans who just love heavyweight boxing. As much as I think we generally agree that Ruiz is going to get blitzed, it's a fight that sells. It
and
really
up
does.
to the point that he gets blitzed, he's right in the fight, right? Unless he falls for the high hand guard and moves his head in, puts his life on the line. You got to think like he can stand in front of you and slip shots and throw combinations. So it's going to be exciting for as long as it lasts because he'll be in the fight as long as it lasts. So
the one thing the one thing I worry about, Rob, is that we've definitely seen Fury hurt Wilder behind the ear, and that's when Ruiz is throwing those weird ass combinations. That's definitely where he lands.
But the only thing I'm thinking about that is that even the size of Fury at 6'9" and he's 2.5 stone heavier than him, he nearly had to nail him to the canvas to knock him out in the end, didn't he? Like, so you have to nearly shoot Wilder. Like, he keeps coming like Michael Myers, like he's bleeding out the eardrum and all. He's fucking firing Mark Breland for pulling him out of the fight. No, fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? I think he's amazing. Like, I'd love to see him and Ruiz. I think that's a brilliant fight. Like, that is one that'll get you interested in just in the build up and it's going to be action packed. Like like that's not going to be a stinker, is it? Like, or have a wrong decision or anything. It's going to fucking.
What I wonder is if Canelo's going to be fighting on Cinco de Mayo, if they're going to try to put because that would sell big on Cinco de Mayo. Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder on the second biggest Mexican American holiday of the year. That's fucking huge.
Who is Canelo? Who will Canelo fight next?
You know what? I think a lot depends on Bivol Ramirez, and I've made my statement known on Ramirez. And I think if Canelo is so up his own ass that he thinks he can move up and beat either of those guys at 175, that might be what he tries to do. But I don't think that he's going to be able to continue to be the box office smash that he is if he loses 2 out of 3. I think that's a bad play. But if Ramirez beats Bivol, who beat Canelo and then beats Canelo, he's a big Mexican star. He's undefeated at like 50-0 at that point in time.
Well, Canelo makes his own decisions according to Eddie, doesn't he? Like, so Eddie will be praying and hoping that he doesn't want to go to 75 again. Because I think if he fights Bivol a million times, he's going to lose every time. Like, I think Bivol is just all wrong for him. He's too big. And like I said, Canelo's not fucking Superman, no matter what supplements he's ingesting in Mexico. He's a brilliant fighter, but he's not he's not Superman, so he's no business up at 75 anyway. The Kovalev one was a piss take, and we saw what it was versus Bivol. If he fought Bivol again, what could he do differently? Like it wasn't even a close fight. Like, so I don't know. I'd say 68. There's not much left for him to do unless he fucking fights one of the Charlos in a cross promotion. I'd love to see that. Like, but don't think it'll happen either, will it? Like,
I think he's going to go for a softie. I think he got his arse tickled by Bivol, and Ramirez is a big unit too. I wouldn't write off Ramirez beating Bivol, like you say, Matty, as well. I think Ramirez
he's
huge,
underrated. Man.
Yeah, he's massive. He's good body He's a good body puncher.
Benavidez is another one we need to see active fighting.
I told you, Andy, I could see Canelo like going to the UK and fighting Buatsi or some stupid shit like that. I'm not even joking. Honestly,
yeah, I know. I got caught up with some fake account there during the week. There, I remember because I messaged you guys saying, "Is it true that Canelo's fighting Lerone Richards?" I was like, no, that's a spoof account, and I picked up on it pretty quick. I was like, I would not be surprised, mate. At the end of the day, as Rob says, if you got someone who's going to throw money at you, you'd be daft not to take it, even though it's these fucking mismatched fights. Yeah. I mean, Ali went on the road, defended his title. He had Joe Lewis bumming the month club.
Eddie will pay him anything, Andy, just to keep him on side. Absolutely anything.
Eddie would take his girth plus his balls in his mouth at the same time and fucking stretch marks.
I'll tell you what, if we're talking about fights that would be great for boxing, since we're kind of seems like the general theme of this show is the negative place of boxing. From a style perspective, if it lasts long enough in your heads, isn't Benavidez Ramirez at 175 one of the best fights you can see in your head?
Yeah,
I mean they both throw.
Should be looking to fucking. He needs a big fight against someone, doesn't he? Like, because no one wants to seem to fight him.
I want to see
68.
Benavidez at 175. I think he drains himself at 68, and I think it
Mhm.
hampers his tank.
And he
I want to
still throws 70, 80 punches around, Andy. He's still
Yeah, I
fucking...
know, but so if that being the case, what would he be like with that additional maybe 7-8 pounds
Mhm.
of poundage and then a full 24-hour rehydration? I mean, the guy be up at 185, 190 possibly. I mean, even you see him in the ring but after a weigh, and he still looks drawn, still looks gaunt.
Well-
A bit like how Devin Haney looked actually when he fought Cambosis. You know, so yeah, he's another one actually. Benavidez. I keep it's probably a negative again, but you know, he talks the talk, he talks well, and you know,
But
he's a decent
he's-
fighter. But
Isn't
mate,
he
he's
supposed
been
to fight
hanging.
Uzcategui again?
Oh, fuck that, man. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about. You hung about 68 for the Canelo fight. You're not going to get it. So go out, fight Beterbiev. Go get your legacy. Okay, it might not be the same money you're looking for, but at the end of the day, what do you want? Do you want just to fight purely for the money, which obviously these guys do, or do you want to leave a lasting legacy? Do you want to fight Bivol? Do you want to fight Ramirez and all these other guys, Beterbiev again, as I mentioned? I mean, surely if you beat these guys, the big money will come at the back end. Surely you got to bet on yourself. We bit like what Floyd did. Get out
I
his
think-
top rank contract and backed himself.
What you're saying, I was just about to come on to it because you just beat me to it. I think Floyd is partly responsible for the new mentality of the modern fighter, like, because you know he broke
You
away
had
from
Ray
Ireland,
Leonard,
he's doing
you
it
had
his
Ray Leonard
own way.
before him, and then you had Ray Robinson before that. So they all kind of maybe learned from
Yeah,
him
so
as well. You
it
know,
comes to a point where he's his own man, he wants to make his own fights, and he's the promoter. But the persona that he put out there with the Money Mayweather, they're following that, like, rather than what he's doing when he's training in the gym and all. Like, they're following the blueprint of
exactly.
we cook the fight until the time is right, and you got to build a pay-per-view attraction, and you know all these Leonard Ellerby catchphrases out from these young kids. It's like, where's the fellas who are like, he's next, man? I'm fucking taking everyone in this division. You know, they always speak so kind of PR coached as well. Like, you know, well, I'm going to leave it up to God and my promoters and my team, and I'm going to take some time. But you never really hear fellas say, you're next. Like, you know, very rarely genuinely like top guys call each other out. Even like it's just so fucking political. But I think a lot of them do follow the likes of Haney and that. Like, they look at Mayweather like as a role model, but they're looking at his business moves and that, like trying to replicate them. Not kind of following up the fight. Like, Floyd did fucking beat a lot of top guys like along the way. That's what people forget sometimes. Like, they call him a cherry picker, and you know, I think Manny was as guilty as being Aaron with Manny was picking fucking cherries all over the place for Manny when he got to such a big status. Not that's not taken away from either of them as fighters, but they both have fights that you could have said were gimmies along the way. Like, but forget that both of them beat a lot of top guys along the way. Like, and now it's like you don't fucking fight the top guy. You let the fight cook, and you fight all these other guys and explain it to people along the way that this is what your plan is and your journey and all. It's just fucking boring, man.
Well, I tell you what, Steve, you've now made friends with Father Dave. You might need to talk to Father Dave about getting a prayer into the big guy for some of these fights to happen for us. Otherwise, Rob might just fucking jump off a cliff.
we
or
could all
something.
put a prayer up, man, but the big man will not be answering. We're fucking, you know.
I think he's busy at the moment.
Exactly, he's probably busy with the Middle East just now, or fucking Ukraine or something like that.
God only knows. Anyhow, guys, there's other questions, and I appreciate all of them that came in, but we've somehow gone an hour and 45 minutes off of 5 crap fights and 2 questions. So we're talented like that. Steve's will hang on to him. Hopefully we get to him next week. We may not. But we do have some fights coming up this week that we will get into. A few cards. Let me get into my notebook for our order. I don't think we're going to want to discuss this one, but on Friday from Italy, you're going to have Guido Vianello against your countryman, Andy J. McFarland. I remember him in some fucking whack job fight fucking a few months ago, don't I? For the first Scottish heavyweight title.
With a tattooed head.
Yeah.
Nick Campbell.
Green hair.
Yeah, he's got like tattoos on his face. Is like, and I can't remember. He's from Glasgow, I'm sure. The boy. He calls himself the Ghost. I fucking don't know why. Like,
He looks
Nick Campbell. That's who it was. Nick
He
Campbell.
He looks like Tommy if he was a huge Sex Pistols fan.
Has he got a phoenix on his leg? This is the things we need to know.
But anyhow, so that's on Friday on DAZN if anybody wants to catch it. Saturday, there's going to be a pay-per-view which I will not buy, and I don't know that we will discuss this much, although I do think it's slightly interesting given they are both been boxing lately. Going to have Jake Paul taking on the Spider, Anderson Silva. Silva getting a victory over Julio Cesar Chavez in the last year, if I do recall. Paul with that great right hand that he's developed, just knocking people the fuck out with it. It will be interesting. There are some boxing heads who have far more faith in the abilities of Jake Paul than others. He's taken on a near 50-year-old Anderson Silva, who still seems to have a ridiculous amount of gas in the tank. Anyone have anything to say about this one? If not, we'll move on.
Gas in the tank probably means EPO, mate.
Probably.
Well, yeah, fuck it. I'm all for it if it's against a YouTuber. No, I'm joking. I think Anderson Silva is one of the MMA guys that I think could have really turned over as a pro boxing. From what I saw of him versus Chavez Jr. in that exhibition, he was in there. He was pinging the head off for Chavez Jr. like it wasn't even close. And he's like, there was talks of him and Roy Jones having an exhibition years ago before one of Roy's devastating knockout losses on the later side of his career. And that would have been interesting. He said Roy Jones is his hero, and he's got a lot of his style, real loose, languid style. I think he would have been fucking really good money as a fucking super middleweight in his prime. But I think he should have enough to fucking beat Jake Paul, man, from what I've seen of Jake Paul. I know he's knocked fellas out, but the fights haven't been good, man. Like, it's not like he's decent. Like, don't get me wrong, he could operate at pro level, like in the fucking in the dregs or whatever. Like, he's never going to be a top level guy, but you got to give it to him in a way that he's making so much money fighting. Like, it's fucking ridiculous to us, but like, he's pulled a genius move personally for himself, and he pays all the fighters on his undercard as well. It makes a big deal about that, so that's kind of positive or whatever. If fellas can make, genuine boxers can make money off the back of it, I suppose that's one positive aspect of it. But yeah, I'd expect Anderson Silva to beat him unless this fucking Jake Paul power is real, man, and he just flies his head into fucking Roseade. What do I know? Like, this is what we're fucking reduced to talking about. You know what I mean?
It's about even in the books. So, I mean, well-matched fight is a well-matched fight. If the bookies got it even, that's curious. Jumping over to this side of the pond, gonna go in a weird order. I guess I'm going in order of importance, the way that I view it. Got a fight from San Diego with Jojo Diaz taking on the undefeated William Zepeda. Steve, this is a well-matched, good fight, good test for the young prospect coming off that really entertaining fight with Rene Alvarado. I know I'll be tuning in.
Well, yeah. I'll be tuning in as well, I suppose, Matty. Sorry, I thought you were going to add something there. I suppose I'll add something in myself. So this was William Zepeda who fought Rene Alvarado in his last fight. Is that right, on DAZN?
Yes.
Yes, I did see that one. That was a good fight. This has the potential to be a fun fight, actually. Zepeda, he is a bit of a puncher, can let his hands go. Jojo Diaz is too high in weight for me. He lacks discipline. He likes a bit of a drink drive. He gets up to all sorts of things outside of the ring, but he must have been cleared to fight. So that's all we need to know. Zepeda fought on relatively close terms with Alvarado. He can stick and move a little bit. You'd kind of pick Diaz for this one, maybe to outbox him, but I don't know. It's a 12-rounder. Might favour Zepeda if he can get the shots off and really put the pressure on Diaz, make him work. He often fades down the stretch, Diaz, so I might be controversial here, Matty, and say that Zepeda could outwork him down the stretch and maybe get the win on this. It's a good fight, though, like you said, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the odds on this one. I don't even know if there's anything out yet on the ones that I use, but I'd be curious to see what they are. I think what I see might be the deciding factor in this one is just that Zepeda is going to be so much bigger than Diaz, who's not a tall fighter. He's real squat, and his game is all about if he can use that jab, kind of slip, get a couple of shots in on the inside. Zepeda's willing to work there, but I just feel this is a guy that's probably going to close out his career at 147 pounds, going in with a guy who very well could still be able to make junior lightweight with the right camp.
He should do. Like I said, it's all about discipline for Diaz. He's definitely naturally talented, but he doesn't seem to take it too seriously. So I think it's Diaz's dad as well. I'm a big fan of him. He loves an F-bomb in the corner. He does. He's one of these self-styled trainers, learnt off watching YouTube videos. There's a few of them about at the moment, but he is an entertaining character, so it'll be fun and interesting in the corners at least. But yeah, I don't know, kind of stupid going against Diaz considering he's fought the better level of opposition, got the draw with Rakhimov. pushed Haney relatively close, but just his work rate, he's too low in weight. And I just think if Zepeda can put the pressure on him as limited as he is with those heavy punches, I'm going to go for it, Matty. I'm going for Zepeda on points.
Zepeda on points. That is going to be one of the picks of this week, too, because it is an interesting fight, I do believe. And you are in the lead anyway, so perfect. Rob, who do you got in that one? Zepeda and Diaz.
I was going to go Zepeda, and then Steve has gone Zepeda, and he's leading. So now I'm thinking Diaz just to try and catch him. So I'm going to go for Diaz on points, but I have a feeling I was going to say Zepeda stoppage, but that's too much of a gamble. So I'm going to go for fucking Diaz on points. A purely tactical pick this week.
Tactical Rob, always thinking he should have been a military general. It's a shame that Ireland doesn't have a more powerful army in which you could have been able to utilize those skills, Rob.
Well, there was a few armies that could have taken part in, and I chose to pass up.
Oh, fuck. Walked right into that one, just like so many bombs in the 70s.
Jesus Christ.
Well, what are you going to do? I had to get one back, Rob. I had to get one back. Andy, who do you got?
I'm kind of siding with what Steve was saying, mate. I agree with what he says about Jojo Diaz having those issues and that, but it's obviously he's another one who's made bad business decisions and got himself in some legal disputes and that as well with ex-managers, that type of thing. And got front-loaded some money on top of like previous or in front of his management contract, that type of thing. But he's always had an issue, I think, as well, trying to make weight as well. I think was it the Rakimov fight? I'm trying to think that they don't miss weight for that one.
Yes, he did.
It was super feather, and then obviously up to lightweight. I think he can take moments in fights whereas he doesn't really, put a lot of snap into his shots, doesn't discourage a lot of people from coming forward, and then obviously he can maybe lose rounds in that as well. And Zepeda's obviously, although his record's not exactly great in terms of opponent's face compared to what Diaz has faced, at least, the guy can crack. And look, even regardless of levels, I always say, even though as long as you get to a kind of world level, you're still knocking people out, then obviously you're a noted puncher. But with Diaz's experience, I think Zepeda could eke out a close decision here. I think we could maybe bin Diaz off for a change, to be fair. I think because we need to be a bit of kind of fresh blood coming through as well. I think Zepeda's only, mid-20s at this point. I think Diaz is in his 30s now. So
I think Zepeda's pretty young. He might even be less than 25 years old, if I recall.
So, yeah, I'll go with Zepeda. I'll go decision.
I'm going to go with Zepeda, but I'm going to go with the stoppage on this one. I think the young guy just might have it. I do have a weird feeling about he might struggle with making 135 pounds. But like Steve said, Diaz isn't the most fantastic fighter late, so I'm not sure that he'll be able to take advantage of it, even if it is an issue. Oz, do you got any thoughts on this one?
No, mate, but if I had to pick one, I think I'd side with Diaz for this, actually.
Right. Fantastic. You were playing cricket for the most of the summer?
Yes, mate, yeah.
Hey, right on. It with global warming, it probably extended the season a little bit for you.
Posh boys rounders.
Mate, there's nothing posh about the league I play in, so yeah.
Right on. Hey, it's good to have hobbies. I should get outdoors more myself. So I do honestly think that this is going to be the potentially the best fight of the weekend. So it is going to be going simultaneously with the top ranked card. So kind of pick your poison on that one. I haven't seen anything really on the undercard of this, but I do think this is going to be a fight worth tuning into. That's my hunch. But yeah, guy got Zepeda by stoppage, probably is going decision, whatever. I have nothing to lose, other than my money. So let's see here. So we'll hop on over to the other side of the pond, and the card is going to be headlined by Katie Taylor against the undefeated yet very untested Karen Elizabeth Carvajal. Also on that card, going to be Jordan Gill versus Kiko Martinez. Oz, do you see anything else on that card that catches your fancy?
I'll just pull the full card up now.
Fisher, he's can't wait for that.
I tried to warn you.
Even Da Fisher, he's waiting for Da Fisher's Chinese order as well, aren't you, Oz?
Oh no, is he there? I keep seeing these videos of bloody Johnny Fisher's dad now all over. He's just taking like deliveries, and it's not just like a small bag of Chinese. It's like fucking truckloads of it just being dropped off at his house, and he's there doing like demonstrations of him plating up his Chinese about how he pours his curry sauce on and stuff like that. I mean,
gosh,
what are we watching now? It is absolutely bizarre. But this is the thing, and this is boxing of 2022. But no, the card itself for me is garbage. It's just trash, from pretty much from top to bottom. I think there's one decent fight on that card, to be honest, and that is Jordan Gill against Kiko Martinez, and I think Martinez is worth a bet at 6-1. Gill just isn't very good, and went life and death with Karen Guerfi last time out, who again is just solid, steady Eddie. Gill had to pull out a huge shot from when he was behind in the fight. Miles behind. Possibly. Yeah, well, I think that was a fight as well. But yeah, absolutely knockout of the year, but also a fight from where while Gill won, I think took a lot of miles off the clock because he took a beating in that ring, and we saw from Martinez, that he's not the fighter he was, but he's not shot to bits, in my opinion.
That right hand is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Mate, if he lands that on Gill, for me, it's lights out. So I think at 6-1, it's definitely worth a punt on Martinez. And I think he'll stop Gill. I think he'll get him out of there. I think he'll overwhelm him. I think if Karen Guerfi's getting to you, Kiko Martinez is going to get to you as well. And Martinez definitely hits harder than Guerfi.
You've got to see where the extra value is on that, how much they're giving you on the stoppage compared to the win.
Sorry?
Even at this stage of his career, do you think he's still got that?
Yeah, mate. Well, mate, he showed it against the Galahad fight. What was that? 18 months ago, something like that. And in the Warrington fight, he landed, he did. I'm pretty sure he landed some shots as well. So I think, 6-1, for me, there is value there, without a doubt. I'm not saying, put huge. He's coming to 5-1 now, and the KO is to win by knockout is 6-1. So
just take him to win. It's not worth.
I just take the outright. Yeah, it's not worth the punt on trying to, to get the exact method of victory. But
that's the rest great shout for a $5. Just one of those, just for a $5. You don't put your life savings on it, but you put enough so like you win this, I'm going out to lunch and eating well tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen Gill hurt, and like I say, I refer back to that Guerfi fight from where he got battered, absolutely battered, and those fights take miles off the clock for you, and you don't know how he's recovered. They're the usual things already. He's had a good camp. Tell me a fighter and a trainer that comes out and says they've not had a good camp before a fight. It's the usual, boxer bingo type of thing pre-fight. They're always going to say it. The rest of the card, it's just garbage. Who the fuck is Karen Carabal, who Katie Taylor's fighting?
Look at the record, man. She's fought,
I'm looking at it now. Her last, so she is coming in to this fight off a beating a 2-0 fighter with 2 draws as well.
Who is now 3-3-3.
Yeah, I mean, she's boxed a couple of 10-rounders. It's bizarre. I mean, I just don't understand it. How the fuck is she even ranked? It's so bizarre. So, we know what's going to happen. Katie Taylor's going to win. Will she get her out of there? Not a clue. Don't care. Taylor will win. Sorry. There is another decent. I was going to say there is another decent fight on that undercard, actually. Mickey Ellison against Thomas Whitaker Hart. This is one of those fights that I was talking about before, from where it's relatively 2 evenly matched guys. Thomas Whitaker Hart, he's... I remember he turned over and there was a big song and dance about him, and then he just seemed to have vanished for a couple of years. Didn't box at all in 2021. And as back this year, had a couple of wins. So I suspect that, I think Whitaker Hart will beat Mickey Ellison, to be honest, who has operated at, around the area level, fringe English title level. And then Ellie Scottley's against Mary Romero, again, another women's fight, which I couldn't really care too much about, to be honest. I think is it for like a European title, but again, it just shows, Mary Romero 8-2, Scotney 5-0, and they're contesting a European title. Just shows the lack of depth. And then Gary Cully, who I really rate, actually. I rate Gary Cully. I think he's a talented guy. Still don't understand how he makes lightweight, by the way, because he's fucking huge. Is he about 6'2", Steve? Something like that. 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, he's massive.
Yeah, and he somehow makes 135. Don't know how, but impressive fighter, talented, fighting an unknown French guy. I'm not even going to pronounce his name. His last name is Belmedi. But yeah, again, 16-0, but bit of a padded record, to be honest. No real meaningful wins on there. So I think the card's pretty poor, to be honest. I'll be invested in the Martinez Gill fight from a betting perspective, but that's about it.
Well, Katie Taylor versus Karen Elizabeth Carbajal. I had a chance to look at Miss Carbajal. She has a couple of things I think that could trouble Taylor if used right. She's pretty long, lanky, fought most of her career at 130 pounds. Susceptible to an overhand right, letting her jab linger. But if she sticks behind a 1-2, she does pretty well. She's got pretty quick feet. The problem is when she decides to throw something behind that 1-2, that's when it starts to get a little bit crude and she gets herself into trouble. My hunch is that Taylor wouldn't stop her. So Katie Taylor by decision would be my hunch on that one. I think that'd probably be the way most of us are going. Not going to have that as one of our picks. But Jordan Gill against Kiko Martinez is one of our picks. Steve, where are you going on that?
Probably to the toilet and then watch the second half of it. I'm not sure, to be honest. Where are we? Katie Taylor, Carbajal. Is that on the undercard?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Jordan Gill. When did he last fight? Let me have a look here.
It's fantastic that for us from the prediction league perspective that you missed Oz's great breakdown of this fight. So you're going off of nothing here. That's fantastic.
I am.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I saw. Have you spoken about Carbajal's record?
Oh, it's junk.
Yeah, it's shit, isn't it? I'm going to go for Jordan Gill on points, I think. When did he last fight? Guerfi, KO9. Yeah, Jordan Gill on points, Matty for me.
Rob, where are you going?
Yeah, taking it easy. Seven figure Taylor back in the easy. And I'm knocking out all Karens. I think Jordan Gill is going to stop Kiko, actually.
Gill, stoppage. All right. Andy.
No, sorry, mate. I was struggling to get the mute button off there. I was listening to Ozzy and that, obviously, and I just think the wheels are going to fall off at Kiko at some point, but you just didn't want to kind of write him off because he has got that power. He fucking eviscerated fucking Galahad. He breaks Warrington's jaw, even though he got beat. He don't get stopped in that fight. I forget the method of victory in that fight again. I think he might have got stopped late.
He did.
Yeah. But and as Ozzy says, about that fight between Gill and Guthrie, it was one of those fights where he's getting absolutely shit beat out of him. I've got it on the list for potential knockout of the year, upset of the year, and that as well, possibly considering how he turned that fight on its head with one shot. Again, you just don't know. It could be just a case of whoever lands the heaviest shot first could end up just kind of winning the fight. And I'm behind in the prediction league, so maybe need to kind of go left field, like betting on Zepeda. I might go for a Martinez stoppage. Ozzy's kind of talked me into this time again, just like he did with the Dubois Joyce situation. So he's talked into this one again, just because obviously Gill's coming off that brutal fight. It happened this year as well. What's it taken out of him and what's he got left? But also as well, what's Kiko got left? You know, it's just like, when's the Gubbins going to go and him? When's his injury going to go? He must be pushing 40 now. He must be in his 40s by now. Surely, Christ. But in terms of experience, power, he's got it all. He could pull it out of the bag. And I didn't want to write him off because I've done it too many times. A bit like B-Hop in the past. You write him off and he comes back to fucking disappoint you or just surprise you, basically. So I'll go I'll go Kiko by late stoppage.
That's the way I'm going too. So I'm cursing you, Andy. You
Oh,
consider
fuck.
yourself.
Right, I'm going
cursed.
Gill by decision then.
Are you?
No, I'm joking.
Okay. I wouldn't blame you. I sure as fuck wouldn't trust me on that one. But I thought Oz had a really good breakdown on there. I don't know enough about Jordan Gill, so honestly, I'm kind of leaning into what Oz said there. He had, per usual, he has some good points, and I trust him on those fighters.
Who did he pick?
He was saying he's from a betting perspective. And with the value, he's going Martinez because it's 5-1 odds on him, and he just thinks he's live and that Gill is vulnerable.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, yeah. So that it could be an interesting fight. I like seeing that. The Katie Taylor fight, not so much. Coming off that Serrano fight, very disappointing opponent, much like Amanda had. Definitely not using that value that they created, unfortunately. So we are going to hop on over that evening, New York City card. The card headlined by Vasily Lomachenko against Jermaine Ortiz, coming off of that victory over Jamel Herring, against Robeisy Ramirez, against Jose Matias Romero. Andy, Robeisy, are you excited about him as a featherweight prospect? What do you think of this fight?
Very easy, mate. Very easy. What fight did you say there? Sorry, Robeisy Ramirez, the Cuban.
Yep.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight Jesse Magdaleno, but he pulled out, and he's got this Romero who run like a thief against Isak Cruz, and he's shit.
All right. Well, we'll no bother talking about him then. I just gone through the card here. You've got. I've heard this guy before, Nico Ali Walsh. Who's that again? Who's his granddad? I forget who his granddad is.
That guy.
Billy Walsh.
Billy Walsh, there we go. That's who I forgot. She's going to be by Irish.
Steve Anderson gave us that £10 donation. He didn't say anything, but I think he was doing it so we didn't mention Nico. That's what I assume. Thank you, Steve, for the £10.
And as I said, I think one of the things I'm looking forward to really would be Richard Torres, the heavyweight. Probably knockout. Was it Ahmed Hefney? I think he's an Egyptian based out of New York, possibly. As for the guy that Lomachenko's fighting, interesting one for me actually, because the guy's quite tall for the weight. I remember fighting Jamal Herring, and he gave Herring all he could handle. Actually, I think that might have been Herring's last fight. He's quite long. He seems quite big for the weight as well. He can spoil. He can do a wee bit of business off the back foot, and he can obviously, he put his punches together a little bit. And obviously, Loma's coming off. When was his last fight? Last December, I think it was.
I don't think it was that long ago. Didn't he fight in the spring?
No, last December.
Really?
December he fought Richard Comey last December, mate, just before Christmas.
Was it that long? He didn't fight anyone. Oh, because he ended up he dealing with the bullshit in Ukraine. Yes.
So, again, it's interesting that what's Loma coming into. Is he? I dare say he'll be fit and prepared and ready to go. I'd imagine, without doubt. But you just wonder again. He's a year older. Is the injuries taking any into effect in that as well? Is that going to be an issue? But I think he'll win. I think he'll win a decision in this fight. Actually, to be fair, I know it's a 12-rounder. Don't know if it's some sort of eliminator of some sort. I don't think so. But just basing this guy off the Jamal Herring fight, I think he'll give Loma a few problems just with the size and reach. I don't know how he'll do with the speed, obviously, and the foot movement, if it's still on point or if it's still close to what we think Loma still is at this point. But I'll say Lomachenko wins by decision.
Can I just throw something in quickly, Matty? Andy, you mentioned Richard Torres, and I was looking at his opponent, that Hefney, the Egyptian guy you were talking about. And I was thinking, I hope he's another fat bastard, the way they put Torres in against fat bastards. So I was looking up and down his weights, right? Now, he has an interesting history of weights, does Hefney. So he started off his career at 199, then he sort of flitted around the 190 mark. And then he was 193 in February 2009. And he came back out 6 months later at 231. So he put on about 40 pounds. Then he carried on around 230, slimmed back down to 197 in 2010. And then 6 months later came out 35 pounds heavier at 232. Unless Boxrec have fucked up the weights, he then went down 22 pounds 3 months later to
Well, yeah.
210.
I think we need to get Ozzy's take on this one, by the
What is
way.
going on with this guy?
There's a good chance he's maybe been doing an Enzo Marcanelli going on the scales with coins in his pockets and
Well,
ankle weights on, you know.
And on this undercard, Andy kind of jumped the gun there. On this undercard, you got a bunch of U.S. Olympians, and they're kind of a lot of them are all
Easley and
interchangeable
Reagan.
right now as they're coming up. I think a few of them seen. I think a few of them I've been disappointed
Johnson.
with. I think either Reagan or Isley. I ended up being. I'm like, I don't know about them. I think Tiger Johnson. I think he's still got some shine to him after watching him. So yeah, those will be some interesting ones. Ramirez is a dark horse at 126. I think that he could do some damage. So that fight is interesting. None of this is going to be on the prediction stuff.
Matt, he's a Cuban. Never trust a Cuban, mate. I've told you this countless times. This guy
could end up being 135 pounds. You're right.
Yeah, but as I say, he's a Cuban fighter, and they always let you down in the end. I think there'll be a quick job somewhere down the line, or his chin will get cracked.
Well, and even if they don't let you down and they win title fights like Arislandi Lara, they still somehow let you down during the fight.
But I want Ozzy's take on this Prince of Egypt. I want his take on it. A fat bastard.
Well, I've got to say, Mr. Wellings seems to be going in really on the severely obese people tonight. I mean, he went in on fat trainers. He's now highlighting another fat heavyweight. He's coming around to my way of thinking of basically publicly humiliating obese athletes who should be in shape and choose not to be.
The only way they're going to learn, Oliver.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, the Prince of Egypt, I mean, do we think he'll honestly care what we think? Probably not. So even better that we can go in on him and give him some abuse. But
Ozzy 316 just says, "You fat bastard."
What are you weighing in at these days, Ozzy?
I'm not sure actually. I've not been on the scales for a while, but I always say, look, I am by no means at peak physical condition, but I don't need to be. Bear in mind, I'm not walking around as like some fat slob or anything like that.
You don't have
30 mile on the bike. I did 30 mile on the bike on a Saturday,
Jesus
so
Christ.
I'm all right. But yeah, but it's like these big porkers who just basically dub themselves as heavyweights. But the best ones are, like Steve said, they just go up and down in weight for the crack. Like, I mean, fucking hell, this Ahmed Hefney, he was at 216 last time out. He boxed a guy, Dakari Scott, got beat. 276 pounds that guy weighed. I mean, fucking hell. It's quite fascinating actually, like these people can get in the ring and somewhat box at 275, 276 pounds. It's quite amusing.
60
but
pounds difference between the two of them, Ozzy.
I know.
He's given up 60 pounds.
60 pounds.
How can that be allowed?
Oh, well, this is the thing. There's an argument, literally. The thing is, though, I've seen people say about should we have a super heavyweight division? I mean, I'm against it because we'd see some real fat bastards coming into it then, like 300 plus pounders in the ring type of thing.
You talk about a place for 10 2-minute rounds.
Yeah, I've just found something as well in that fight. See that Hefney Dakiri Scott fight you just mentioned there, Oz. Steve,
yeah.
Guess what belt was on the line for that one?
Oh,
the vacant NEBA gold heavyweight title.
Oh, belt watches back.
Yeah, Andy, the plot thickens. Hefney once fought Clarence Tillman III, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Oh,
and guess what? Guess what? Tillman III weighed in. I've just had a look at it. Then
400
he was heavier. No, he was 280 for that fight as well. So I mean, they're just going up. Literally,
we had him on the pod actually. Remember we had him on the pod. I think you were maybe on the pod, Matty. And I mentioned him about his weight. I think he'd fought that Jack Maris. No, who was it? It was close to 300 pounds. I said to him, says, so you're close to like 300 pounds for your last fight, but you weighed something like 270 for your last one. He says, cheers for reminding me about that one, mate. Fucking hell. But he's an American based out of was it New Zealand, Australia, somewhere?
Tillman lost to Fujimoto. The circle has been turned.
Lucas Brown knocked him out in 2 rounds as well.
The thing is, though, but Brown, that's one thing Brown's always been able to do. He hits bloody hard. But yeah,
Bill Williams knocked him out in the round.
He's another one went for the Dillian White fight, arguably the biggest fight of his career, and he came in completely out of shape and weighed in on the day at over 300 pounds for that fight. Over 300. It's just insane that these heavyweights they just use it. They literally abuse their position. at being in the top weight class and eat fucking truckloads of food whenever they want, and
Sorry,
clearly
Matthew.
they don't care.
I think I've derailed the conversation here.
Isn't it weird though? It's like when you're looking at some heavyweight fight in BoxRec and you're trying to figure out, the opponents. So you go and look at their page and you're scrolling down and you notice some name. And you're like, why do I recognize that name? And you go and you look them up and you're like, the fuck? This guy was a welterweight. It's like they just give up on life. They're like, what if
Well, like Guillermo Jones.
I love sandwiches. So we're just going to keep eating sandwiches and we'll be a heavyweight and we'll make a
for the last 5 minutes while this has been going on, I've been making a big sandwich and a big fucking late night snack because I'm hungry all of a sudden.
Matty, go look at Guillermo Jones's record, right? And go look at how active he was between fights, like how long he was at the ring for, and how many weight divisions he jumped up in that time frame. And you talk honestly, he went from 147 for a pro career right up to 200 pounds, and then I think he finished off last year up at
He started
heavyweight.
off at super welter, Andy, and he ended up as a heavyweight. Yeah,
Guillermo Jones started as a welterweight.
That's what we're talking about.
That's who we're talking about.
Oh, you said Glenwood. You said Glenwood, so I got
that
confused.
was his brother.
And so yeah, Guillermo Jones went up. Andrew Fanfara, I think he started out as 140 or 147, ended up light heavyweight and 168. Not as bad as going
Ben
up to
Russell in the
heavyweight.
chat. Sorry, Ben Russell in the chat is saying who was the Australian cruiserweight that missed weight by a stone?
Oh, that was
Harvey. It was 50 pounds. It was fucking It was Hayden H. Bomb Lewis or something. Like
Hayden
his name was.
Wright or something, wasn't
Hayden Wright. Aye,
he missed weight by about 50 pounds.
50 wasn't it a stone? It was 50 fucking pounds.
That's some going, that, isn't it?
He had to get the towel out for him. He was trying to dry it out.
I think the largest heavyweight we've seen on the UK shows for a while was a little while ago now, and it was a guy called Dennis Lewandowski who boxed Fabio Wardley in Nottingham, and he had an old BoxRec picture on from where it showed him in shape. Anyway, so they brought him over, Matchroom, and he weighed in at 352 pounds against Fabio Wardley. They literally said, like, after he weighed in, they went, he didn't look like that on his picture. 352 pounds. Two fights prior, he weighed in at 315 pounds. So clearly, he's just been sat on a couch, shoveling cartons of whipped cream down him.
we know what he spends his purse on.
See, on that
I was going to say
H-bomb, right? So I've just found his BoxRec here, right? So he got knocked out in one round off a guy, right? Who he actually gave up 70 pounds. He actually gave 70 pounds to the boy. He was 273, and the guy he fought was 203 and 3/4, and he got knocked out in one round. I think he's up to 291. Against a guy who was 297, and they come down in weight. This is what we're talking about, 284. It was for a catch. I think it was a 200-pound cruiserweight fight, right? He fucking missed it by 50 fucking pounds. Of fat bastard.
He was fighting a guy who'd killed somebody, hadn't he? I think he was fighting a killer.
Who was that fat dude that used to that was friends with Roy Jones Jr. and was a heavyweight journeyman, and he always came about 300 pounds? I think his name was like Gabe something or other.
Yes,
it's killing me. I can't think of it.
Spar with him, didn't he? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't mind his name.
We caught his pal, Big Brian.
Donnie's in the chat. Donnie, you should know that one. Who is the fat guy that used to be was Roy Jones Jr.'s friend, and he was a heavyweight journeyman.
Yeah,
he always came in.
They used to say he was better than he looks. He's got fast hands and all, but he was just a big. He used to get undercard opportunities. I can't remember his name.
He does have fast hands. You ever seen the motherfucker at a buffet?
Gabe Brown.
Gabe Brown. Nice. Nice. The correct answer is Gabe Brown. Thank you, Johnny H.C. Nelson. While we're doing that real quick, and we get before we get into the main to the discussion about Lomachenko, I'd like to thank people in the chat. Donnie was just there. We got Ryan Ormerod, Mark Stanton, Dez, Johnny H.C. Nelson, Jim McDonald Boxing, Christmas, James Webb, Michael Thompson, the Dr. FMG, Harvey Price Boxing Returns, Big A, Matt Butters, Josh Ford, Yimmy Yappy, Joseph Kennedy, Joe C. Take Ames is in there, our good buddy, great journalist. Number one, that's all he's in there as, number one at What We Wonder. Ben Russell, CHR, Crobert, 79, and Steve Anderson, who'd put that $10 or 10 pounds in there. We do appreciate very much. Actually, we're on parity right now, Steve. 10 pounds, $10, same fucking thing. I don't even have to worry about the language. Cents, pence, it's all the fucking same.
Absolutely. It's all sorted for us, Matthew.
Yeah, fuck, all we needed is a fucked up economy. Now I don't have to do conversions. Easy world for me. Let's see here. So, Lomachenko against Ortiz. Steve, there you go. Yep, that's a good old Gabe Brown. That's good old Gabe Brown. God love him.
Fuck's sake. Sorry, Matty, go ahead.
You're fine. Rob, so we got Vasily Lomachenko coming in to having to deal with that war in Ukraine against Jermaine Ortiz, a bigger fighter, taller, longer. Do you think that Lomachenko is still going to have the legs, or do you think Ortiz has a chance to control this fight with the jab?
I think Lomachenko boxes his ears off, and you'll get a stoppage, something like when he was calling for the stoppage against Kami, was it?
Yeah, and he just please stop it, and he did nothing.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a late round stoppage. Lomachenko breaking him down, boxing his ears off, countering him, and looking to look good and put himself back in a title shot. So needs a stoppage win, get the casual observers' eyes back on him. And needs to get his name out there, try to get a fight now at 35 to get a title again.
All right.
Because he's going to be the fucking president of the Who Wants It Club. Like, who fucking, if you have a belt and you want it, if Lomachenko's not your mandatory, like, why the fuck would you want to fight him? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, so, I think it's because, maybe promotional stuff and things like that. And I'd like to think that Ortiz might be able to give a good account of himself, Steve, but I think he's been handpicked. I believe he's got less than 20 fights. I think he's handpicked for Lomachenko to get a win and get into that Haney fight where they can make some motherfucking money.
Yeah, very quickly from me, Matty, completely agree with you. And Rob's breakdown was perfect. I think Ortiz will be too inexperienced. I think the first couple of rounds might be feeding him out. And after that, Lomachenko is going to start putting his foot on the gas and hurting him. Fast, accurate shots. Ortiz won't have seen anything like this before. Lomachenko stops him in about 9 or 10 rounds, moves on to the Haney fight. Lovely stuff.
All right. Does anybody else, Oz, do you have any thoughts on this fight? I mean, it's just a tough one. I mean, we kind of know what Ortiz is after seeing him in a couple of fights, like I said, most recently against Jamel Herring retiring after, and it was still a close fight. But styles make fights, and, Lomachenko's pretty squat guy. I just wonder if Ortiz can use his wheels, use his length, but not too confident in it.
No, I agree with everything that Rob says, actually. I think Lomachenko will probably take a couple of rounds to get into it as such, see what he can do, and then we'll ultimately put his foot on the gas. We'll pretty much comprehensively outbox him throughout the fight, and we'll get a stoppage, not by, the big one-punch KO, but by a barrage of shots, just Ortiz taking too much, and essentially it leads to Lomachenko, calling for it. I think he seemingly takes pity on his opponents in a little way now, and I think he genuinely felt sorry for Commey that he didn't want to hurt him, and was calling for that. I think we'll see something quite similar. I wouldn't say this is a mismatch, but I don't think I'd be amazed if Ortiz poses remotely any problems to Lomachenko in this.
This gets shown on Sky as well, doesn't it?
I don't
know.
Yes.
Well, that's good, because I won't have to listen to fucking Testator then say, the Matrix is downloading the data. Lomachenko downloads the data on his opponents, doesn't he, Timothy Bradley? Yeah, he downloads the data. Fuck off, man, to download the data.
Testator's the worst, Rob, man.
He's the Matrix.
I don't mind Kriegel as such, because I think he's a good writer, but he does over egg it a bit. But Testator, man,
I hate Testator.
Holy fuck me, man. Tim Bradley as well. He sits in the back and going woo, like me when the fucking punches are fucking landing and that. But that's just him and Dre, man. Dre never goes to the fight, does he?
No, he sits at home like friggin' forward.
We keep asking the question, why? Why is
must
he
be a
doing
vaccination thing, I'd say.
But can you not travel around about America unless you got vaccinated? Like, can you not travel on the road?
You can travel around the country. You just can't hop on international flights.
But you can go on internal flights.
Yeah. I think maybe there's some airlines that might have their own rules, but I think if you want to, you can find a way.
Maybe he just can't be asked to go to the fight. He's like me now. He used to go all the time, but now he's like, fuck this. And hopefully his kids must play Fortnite as well, like mine, because his connection sometimes fucks up as well.
Just like Rob, I was looking through some old press passes and that and stuff, and I actually came across a British title fight. I was over at Ravenscraig a few years back when Anthony Crawler defended against Willie Lemond. And you talk about like small hall shows that like 3,000 turn up that night. Just like Ozzy was talking about some of the kind of lesser shows. Ravenscraig, a fucking good night that. Aye, so maybe get all press passes out for you, Steve, and we're gonna get the listeners to kind of bid for them if they want.
Well, Steve Anderson, funny you should mention, who threw in the super chats.
Is he in a drawing, Steve?
Sorry,
is he in a drawing?
He won. I sent it to him this week. The Conlon pass and everything. He won it last week.
Man, talk about a dedicated, loyal listener, Steve.
Oh, he's a legend, is Steve Anderson, absolutely.
People named Steve. They're good folks, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're good
folks.
Yeah. People named Steve. So, well, I guess that's about all we have. I do want to give a heads up to the people in the Nutters group, because I know they take their prediction league very seriously, and this will give you guys a chance to think about this, especially you, Rob, who chooses to believe that anybody who is under 115 pounds does not exist.
Here's what I can't stand, right? In the pits of boxing where we stand. Why can't we just get my results from this league and put them in the Boxing Nutters league? Why do I have to be behind in the Boxing Nutters league when we were all fucking commenting on the same fights? This is corruption at its finest.
Probably.
And I'm going to get Ben Shalom or someone on the case. Ben Shalom.
No, what we need to do, guys, we need to start getting...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ben Faruqi, by the way, he got his prize, listeners. I was going to give away all those boxing posters, but Ben said he wanted them, so I'm giving them to him instead. That's what you get for being tight gets in the super chat.
Apparently, Floyd Mayweather is actually wanting 10 grand to come on the podcast, so if we can get Anthony Durrell to give us that 10 grand for showing these comments about another little white baby.
He's a shithouse, isn't he?
Yeah, we can never get Floyd in the pod.
He is as well.
So, since we've gone way off the deep end, let me go where I was going here. So, for our people in the prediction league, we have a great card that we'll be talking about next week. Andy, I think you're going to like this one, but I know you guys worry about some of these fights in Asia that are midweek and getting them in your league. So I'm giving you a heads up. There's going to be one fight from this card that we're going to pick. This card it's got 3 really good fights between smaller fighters. Junto Nakatani against Francisco Rodriguez over 10 rounds. And then we have a title fight between Jonathan Gonzalez and Shokichi Iwata. And then a title fight between Kenshiro Taraji and Hiroto Kayaguchi. That Jonathan Gonzalez Iwata fight. That one, I think, as I looked, was even in the books. So we're going to definitely be having that as one of the prediction leagues. Andy, and I think this Asian card, it's really going to deliver. The people in Japan, they score with this one. So we'll talk about next week, though.
Oh, that's fine. We'll leave it to next week then, mate, because we'll need all the content we can get. How the fuck we've managed, 2.5 hours is unbelievable. So
I've just got the Mrs. Wellington text, by the way, so we're on borrowed time here, boys.
There you go. And I was just going to say, it's time to turn it over to Steve for the value of the week.
Text. Thanks, Matty. Thank you very much indeed. Episode 497, Ozzy's disappearing. Nothing from him this week. Thank you very much, Ozzy. Rob's here, Matty's here, Andy's here, and me, Steve. What shall we play us in with this week? October is Black History Month, so there's only one way to celebrate.
And we are all set very shortly now for our top of the bill here tonight at the BT Sports studio. It is for the famous and historic British middleweight title. And before we get to talk about our main fight here, David, I think it is perhaps appropriate tonight that we just pause to mark Black History Month, most of all. And we discussed it today, and we thought it was actually right that we acknowledge that properly, and there's nobody better placed on our team to do that than Steve Bunt. So over to you for a moment, Steve.
That will never not be funny.
The greatest moment in BT boxing history.
Bunsey, like, he wouldn't see the funny side of that, would he? Like, he'd be cracking up that we're laughing at that. Something out of The Office, like the first series.
Aye.
Fucking hell.
You can imagine him taking all serious, building himself up to that moment. He need to start talking in front of the cameras, and then it's.
If someone had told me that
It's
was a
meme
skit,
for the
man, I
rest
would
of
have
his
thought it
life.
was one of the best comedy fucking sketches ever written. Like, unbelievable. Just pants to Bunsey. No one better placed on our team. Fucking David Hayes sit beside me.
There's not a man, woman, or child who'll watch that card not thought to himself, right, he's going to pass it out to David Hay here, isn't it? No. Steve
Dempsey's
Bunce.
good for a fuck up, though, isn't he? Do you remember when he called Ronald McIntosh Ronald McDonald?
And the time he was interviewing Eubank, when Eubank was
With the rape stuff.
he was saying about Tyson's rape case, he was like, she consented to oral sex. And he was like, well, we do not agree with those viewpoints, Chris.
I thought Eubank go back with Sky again after that for a few years.
Prime time Sky, that's Eubank's fucking still. Oh, man.
This will be one of the producers backstage while that was going on, Andy.
I'm gunning like fuck, mate. That's at least 2 ounces of fucking ching that boy's done there.
Doesn't give a damn, does he? Not an ounce. Oh, he's like the guy. You ever spoke to Germans like for like any length of period? I don't think they're people who really got a good sense of humour, or they really don't take the British sense of humour like of being snide and just take the piss. And I was kind of laughing this day. It was one of the music fights we were going to, and I was talking about Callie being a cokehead. And the fucking boy got serious with me and says, "You cannot believe that Callie Sutherland sniffs cocaine 24 hours a day like the rest of those people do, yeah?" I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Seriously, I was like, you be serious with me here?
Has that fella ever seen somebody who's taking cocaine, by the way?
I don't know, mate. He looked a bit kind of square at me like.
Oh, dear.
The only thing I like about cocaine is the smell of it.
Well, he seems like he's having a good time, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the main thing. That's the main thing. Talking about a good time.
He's got a lot of money, and if I had a lot of money, who knows what the fuck I would do?
Who knows?
Everything a year, eh?
Who knows indeed?
Who knows?
Ebbs and her friend were out in force, and Jeff Powell.
Jeff, get ready to risk it all there, eh?
He looks there like to me, or like he's just reminiscing on days gone by.
He's probably thinking to himself, I should have brought the hydraulics with me.
Someone please Photoshop the guy into that as well, please. Ryan Deal or someone, please.
His head kind of poking around about the edge here or something.
Put the guy's head on the friend.
He's
the middle of the chest.
He's just wondering why people pay so much money for clothing which involves so little fabric.
He's just listened to Chicks with Dig, Matty, I think.
I'm sure he's a fan. Who wouldn't be?
I'm sure.
I said I was uncomfortable with the thought of Mayer winning. I thought Baumgartner might pull it off. I should trust my instincts, Steve.
I would hope Baumgartner will pull it off, to be honest with you.
I know, Rob. I know.
Plenty of pulling off.
We should pull it off slowly and then quickly and then slow it down a little. Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
It's like that's a token. Sorry, Steve. The young fella going to the new soccer club. The manager says to him, "You're having a shocker. You're getting pulled off at halftime." And he goes, "That's brilliant. At the last place, we only got oranges." Oh, fucking hell, Corner Manning, eat your heart out.
Another zinger.
I write my own material. That's the difference, Rob.
See, Robert says Jeff's socks used to be white.
I really hope the people go on and they check out the video of the Bellew of the week each week. So much of this is visual. You got to get it for the jokes. They're great.
Exactly. It's visual. Talking of nice breasts, here's Yusuf Babu versus Hudson Mamuza. Battle of the Rising Stars.
How can you tell, Steve? They're covering up his tits with that guy's arm. Like, don't have any fucking clue.
WhatsApp, didn't they? This was the WhatsApp one. Was it Belize? Was it? No,
I think it was in Uganda, wasn't it?
Uganda, that's what it was. That's what it was. We tried to kind of figure out how much 1 million Ugandan dingo dollars was into British pounds. I think Aussie came back, was it £2.50?
No, I think it was 243 quid or something.
Fucking hell.
For a table. That's the Battle of the Rising Stars, Andy. Return of the Legends. Babu versus Musa.
You think about the menu like crocodile and fucking wild boar.
Tevin Farmer against Mickey Bay on the undercard.
Finally, the world awaits. Well, waits no longer.
Someone on Twitter said, fucking Terence Crawford saw that Mikey Bay debacle and said, "That's for me." Oh, fuck me.
Dear. It's all good fun until someone gets hurt. Steve Bunce, nobody's bold enough to say no that Fury versus Del Boy will flop at the box office or be a spectacular success. However, by 6 tonight, they will all say, yeah, I knew it would sell out. Yeah, I knew it would bomb. Boxing is a hysterical business of deluded experts, a.k.a. liars.
It seems on the hinge anyway. That's the main thing.
Just imagine him, Rob, pointing at A4 at the Box Nation camera while shouting that out.
He was brilliant value back in the day on the telly, though. I will give him that. Like, he was fucking top drawer value. Like, as a I don't think Twitter is the best medium for him. You know that way. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, he's
liars.
New age media. He's
always at that, isn't he, on Twitter? Like, cowards, come and see me, cowards, you liars. You know, he loves a bit of that.
He's like the Father Ted speech. Anyway, this has been dug up here. Frank Warren talking about Derek Chisora a while back. It's fair to say he's probably changed his mind since this. Chisora should retire. End of story, Warren said. Warren then dismissed out of hand the notion that WBC champion Fury would entertain fighting Chisora. The only way Tyson fights Chisora again is if he were struggling for an opponent, or if Tyson insisted on it. He continued, Chisora, should retire. He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the ring, let alone in there with Tyson.
Wonder is Umar going to ask him that one, maybe.
Umar's going to have to ask that question, but he does say this. It only happens if Tyson wants it, or if we're struggling for opponents. Well, he went through the list of opponents, and they were struggling to be honest with you, but it is shit. Like, it is terrible.
If you put that to Frank now, though, he'd just say, "That's what I fucking said, isn't it?"
I even have the emails to show you. Yeah, fucking call me a liar now, you cunt.
Oh, good old Frank. Isaac Warrior Low has been going on Nick Ball. Nick Ball was interviewed by International Boxing News. Nick Ball revealed all to International Boxing News about whether he is ready for a world title opportunity, why he withdrew from his British title, etc., etc. Isaac Low, former Ball victim, said, "Shitbag, it was your night that you and ref had a good win. That night, fair play to use. Can you do it again?" Isaac Matty going in.
Fuck yeah, in some language.
Isaac's got his phone back. His pal must have given it back to him.
He's class, isn't he? But a Klingon there from Isaac. Joe Markowski is getting weighed in on the British political situation. James Becker's nominating him for this one. Please show me someone in the UK who could do a better job as PM right now than current day Tony Blair. With takes like this, it's a wonder why DAZN is struggling.
Fucking Tony Blair, man, should be in the fucking jail cell.
There's a global economic crash beckoning here. I don't want to hear from the fella from fucking DAZN on fucking economics right now. It's not fucking, you know what I mean?
Shut
up,
because
shithead.
If Liz Truss was a Vegas wedding, you could have just had her annulled.
Who's gonna last longer, Liz Truss or Joe Markowski, Matter?
Or DAZN
Or the lettuce
as well.
The lettuce, that was class. Oh fuck me, that was class. Anyhow,
moving on. Frank Bruno, MBE, has been nominated by David Albans. Frank tweeted out, "Afternoon. If you had choice of food, a surprise guest, and entertainment, what would you choose? Me, rice and peas, my dad, and Madonna. In my charity auction, an amazing Apollo 11 presentation, signed by Buzz Aldrin, still under £200. Come on, this is a piece of history."
Yeah, I was at a bankruptcy auction a few years back, and how many years is it since they went to the moon? Was it 70 years? I forget it was close to that.
It's
Anyways,
55 years.
50 whatever it is.
Now.
At that time, anyway, the big anniversary was coming. I think it might be the 50-year mark, basically. And they had pictures, and it was all signed, and it was all pucker, it was all fucking documented. And that it was the only signed picture available with all the signatures on it, and it went for 10 grand. And fucking Frank's out there fucking putting up a history for £200.
Madonna's going to be there with Frank Bruno on the fucking the 30th anniversary of her sixth book being launched. What's that?
How would it feel? Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, I just saw someone on Twitter say, I can't take the credit for this, but someone because you see Madonna lately, like she's had some work, say, and someone said. She's had so much plastic surgery that she now looks like an old Korean woman who's dressed up as Madonna.
Next to the fire, she'd melt.
Steve, I just gotta say, it's such a fucked up world, and wouldn't you feel terrible, like if you went and you walked on the moon, and yet some toothless hag with chlamydia could get more money from giving a blowjob than like from a piece of your history.
Yeah,
Where's he
I
gone?
haven't really thought about it, to be honest with you. What about the moon, Matt? Are you a skeptic?
No, fuck no.
That
Jesus Christ, we've been to the moon.
They didn't. Why don't they just do it again then every week? If they fucking
you're-
did it in 1964, it's 2022 now. Why are they not up there playing fucking the World Cup on the moon? If they really went up there, it's all a fucking sham, Matty. You come to the fucking dark side. Do you hear me? Come over here.
If you don't shut up, I'm going to push you off the edge of the flat Earth, Rob.
Carol Fletcher's in that club with Rob for fucking flat earthers.
With Rob and Anthony Crawler.
Oh, aye.
Richard D. Hall.
Anthony Crawl's got $1 million. Fucking take an expedition to the edge, bitch. Go.
The thing about the flat Earth thing to me is, what fucking difference does it make? If it's flat, so fucking what? I can't hear you. You know what I mean? You still have to get up and go to fucking work, don't you? Like, fuck the fucking Earth if it's flat.
Who's the
or
president
not.
of that club again? Who's that American
Al
guy
Frost.
who got sued?
Frost
the
is in
sued.
it.
The American one who got sued. What was his
Alex
fucking
Jones.
name?
Alex
Alex
Jones.
Jones.
Saying
He's
all
the
the
president.
school
He's the
shootings
president of
and
that club.
fucking-
Alex
yeah.
Jones. That's the
That
one.
guy's, yeah.
Well, let's not go down that fucking rabbit hole.
Aye,
We're still
This
hanging
is what
on
we
YouTube.
talk about after the podcast.
Hi, Sandy left hook. Oh, we had to remember that one from a year. We better not go there again, I suppose. Anyway, Clarissa the Groat Shields has got stuck in here. She says, I mean, we all got a job to do, but no way anyone saw the fight a draw. That means she won the last 5 rounds, and we all know that didn't happen. And no day carry last. Matty says, I think Matty should have won last week for having this a draw. I think the Groat's going in on you, Matt.
Fucking brilliant. There's
All
nobody in the
of
world
you-
who has more draws than Matty, man. I'm telling you.
All of you can go to hell, and I'll leave it at that. And you feel free to vote on me if you must.
That's brilliant. That's a good.
I cannot
Anyone
remember
can
the last
get
time
it,
I
man.
scored a fair draw. I honestly can't remember the last time I scored a fair draw, Matty. You have
Shields
won
won the fifth.
You've got at least one a month, for fuck's sake. How's
Yeah.
that possible?
Well, you don't do
Because
50.
each fighter wins an equal number of rounds.
Pish. I just told you that I watched as many fights as you did, and I didn't get all these draws.
It's because you can't score fights for shit.
Pish.
And moving on, Mike Coppinger. Compelling super middleweight fight. Ryder's far more tested than Zach Parker. Who wins? Armchair Dan says compelling. No, I'm Aussie. I drew the wrath of Aussie during the week, Rob, when I said that John Ryder against Zach Parker was a bit meh to me. He wasn't too happy about that, but he's not here to defend himself.
No, yeah, I'm not. It's not getting me out of my seat, to be honest with you. I'd like to see Ryder in a title shot soon. Like, how he's going to get one, I don't know. Canelo holding him up all the belts, but like, it's like you got Danny Jacobs to Zach Parker. You know, he's getting good money for it, but there was talks among Gia as well, wasn't it? I would have preferred to see that fight, to be honest with you. Give him a chance to get over to the States and all that and do his thing. But yeah, not mad on the Zach Parker fight either.
Absolutely. It's not getting Rob out of his seat like Armchair Dan. Blonde Bomber just bumped into my 70-year-old neighbour and she asked me, did you go to that big women's fight on the weekend? She ain't into boxing, but she heard and knew about it. Hashtag women's boxing. Oliver Isaacs has nominated this one. Was that a lie, Matty, or do you think Ebony's telling the truth?
Given the way she's built, I could see her bumping in a number of things.
Absolutely. Good old Ebbs. Dominic Henry's nominated this one from IFL TV. According to reports, Fury Chisora 3 will take place at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on December the 3rd. Who wins and how?
I wonder.
Fury by uppercut?
Oh dear. The boy's doing unrivaled work over there. Here we go. Aussie's disappeared, unfortunately, so nothing from him on this one. Joe Kennedy nominating Tim Boxeo. Next up from Kansas City, heavyweight, scheduled for 4 rounds. John the Iron Man Cantrell, 4-0, 4 KOs, versus 336-pound TJ Tombstone Jones.
Well, I didn't fully read the caption when I saw it first, and I was like, which one is Tombstone Jones? And then it took me a second, and I looked at the tattoo, but it was so stretched out, I was like, oh, it's Tombstone Jones. That's what it says. I must have got that when he was a young buck, the Tombstone.
Tombstone.
The other guy's a religious guy who fucking, you know what I mean? Tombstone was a bad omen for him, so.
She's like, who's Tom Brownstone?
The ref looks like he's saying, listen, I'm not giving you a mouth-to-mouth, man. I'm just counting you out. That's it.
Oh dear.
I think he's mere asking. He's maybe kind of like concerned. Are you able to fucking do this? I mean, look at him. Fucking hell.
Wouldn't you be concerned about like going too hard on the body on him? Because you just
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
why
how
you
long
need-
it's been since he's eaten. You can only assume like maybe 2 hours at best.
That's all you need to hit. Just hit the body. That's all you need to do. He would literally last a round.
I want to see the 5 opponents that he beat.
Oh, let's have a look now, shall we? We've got to do that. Let's have a look now. TJ.
Give us the weights too, Steve. Give us the weights.
Tombstone Jones.
This is really going to be cracking up. He's saying, yeah, but I had to pull up Tombstone Jones' record. I think they're going to freaking... What's he got running here?
Oh, fuck's sake, Tombstone, where are you? TJ Jones. Oh, Thomas Jones, he's known as. Let's have a
Tombstones
look.
have far less give when you punch him than this guy.
He's from Kansas City, so he's beaten Dakota Talbot 1-6. Michael Glenn was only 203. Tombstone was 251. Apparently so. He lost to Trey Lippy Morrison, Tommy Morrison's son.
Okay.
Flip me. Here's one for you. In Kansas City Expo Center, he beat Wayman Carter. He weighed in at 293 pounds. Carter weighed in at 213. So there's about 80 pounds between the two of them.
It's basically Wilder versus Fury too.
Yeah, but mate, that's elite level we're talking about there. This isn't the fucking elite level. This is like ham and eggers we're talking about, you know. Little ham and eggers.
I think, though, to be fair, Andy, it's COVID that's affected TJ because he last fought in July 2019 and weighed in at a svelte 285. He came back last week.
Lockdown, baby. Look at
336. So
that 3
years. That 3 years hasn't been kind on him, to be fair.
That's where Eddie got the game change hashtag from. The COVID years.
Poor Tombstone, man. Look at him, like. Look at his sad face.
For about a week.
He's just
really sad.
Doesn't he? Like he's just like, I'm after being rolled out here. Like I could end up on a chat show if I keep on this trajectory. Like they're going to be fucking cutting me out of the house. And here I am, like trying to get a few shit. This fella's going to fucking knock me out. Like look at this.
Look at this. The guy he's fighting. This guy is John the Iron Man Cantrell, who's 4-0, 4 knockouts. Look at that metrosexual. Look at the hair. That shitty fucking both. Look at him.
Is he 5-0 with 5 knockouts now? I gotta know.
Well, I was going to say, have a guess how the fight ended.
Round 1 KO, I say.
Round 1 KO to Cantrell. Yeah. And it took place in the Memorial Hall. So,
Tombstone in the Memorial Hall, eh?
Poor old Tombstone in the Memorial Hall.
That's how they stole him the fight. They're like, it's going to be marketable, man. Tombstone in the Memorial Hall. He's like, yeah.
$20 if you turn up.
He looks like he just got paid in vouchers as well, doesn't he? Like,
aye, fucking food vouchers.
I bet his belly button is deeper than most vaginas.
Get this then, boys. Also on the card, Gerald McClellan Jr. fought on that same card. He's got tattoos on his face. He's 30.
Please God, he gets fucking roided up and he comes back and fights Conor Bain.
He's 33, Matty, so I wonder if that's...
What weight is it?
Okay, that makes sense. He was 33 because I'm like, because that would have to been before the accident, right? So, yeah,
well,
that
you
would
would
make
imagine
sense.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So he would have been born late 80s. Wow, he didn't go at it. It would have been kind of hard to like that would have been if I was Gerald McClellan's son. That'd be kind of like my last fucking resort for earning a living.
Steve?
Probably was, man. Considering, you know what I mean.
178, so just over light heavy. That's him there. Looks like a nice fella, doesn't he?
Ben will need you on the fucking growth hormone for that fight then.
Jesus Christ.
2-1. Anyway, sorry, taking us down a bad path here. Let's have a look. In better shape was this guy. 2 rounds to go from Kansas City. Oh, this was on the same card.
What's the story in Kansas, man?
That's a C cup at least, man. Yeah. I mean, you can't think I did he ride out of that, man. Honestly.
Was it like one of those fucking white collar events or something? That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
I don't know.
His nipples are pointing at the tips of his shoes.
2 rounds to go as well. So, did that go the distance, Steve?
The other fella's only like 6 stone. Look at the fucking guy he's fighting. Look.
He did, yeah. This card's the gift that keeps giving, boys.
He should have fought Tombstone. That was the fight.
Yeah, that was the wrong matchup for it.
Also on that card, there was a guy called Steve Cunningham. I don't know if there's any relation to the Steve Cunningham, but look at his box rec photo.
It's his driver's license photo.
Fucking hell.
Oh, yeah, as Matty says, you've got to watch the video version of Belly of the Week this week. There's been some absolute crackers. Anyway, moving. Final few. AJ. Take Ames nominated this one. They've got AJ rapping out in Dubai. This guy loves the mic. He was dropping a few beats there, Rob.
Yeah, He's, as anyone see, he's got no rhythm. That's what his problem is. I don't know how that's happened, but he's off time in all of his little freestyles and that. But I've been an AJ critic long enough. I'm sure if he wants to rap, he can fucking do his thing. You know what I mean? I've slaughtered him enough over the years. Like, I let him do his little rap. Like, let him have his fun. In fairness to him, he has good taste in music. He came out to he was trying to freestyle over Mob Deep, Give Up the Goods, and he came out to the Lox's All for the Love against Usyk, so he is a bit of a hip hop head. So have at it, AJ.
When I say Allah, you say holla, Allah, holla,
Holla.
holla.
Anthony Holla.
I didn't hear the freestyle, but I heard it. It was nice.
Oh, he did a good job. No rhythm, like Tombstone boxing off the back foot. Here we are, Ricky Graville nominating the Bronze Bomber. What about this then, Bob? What's your critique on the Bronze Bombers video?
He's turned him into fucking somebody E17 with that fucking video, for fuck's sake.
If he asked me about it, Steve, I'd tell him it was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Or you get Hellenius.
You should collaborate,
Robert
Rob.
Hellenius again.
Kowalakid.
Yeah, that'd be a meme of me just laying there with my eyes fucking open while I was fast asleep on the ground. Wilder's doing his thing, man. He's having fun. I think he has his wife in the video. It's very kind of...
Rob, you sound like your head's been shoved in the toilet. Are you okay?
I was charging the phone.
The
charging the phone here away because the StreamYard kills the battery, doesn't it? But he's got his wife in the video, and the video scene itself looks very kind of like, I'd liken it to like, years ago the television before it went encrypted, like. They'd have give you a hint of what was to come.
10 minutes.
But then the encryption would come in, like, it's kind of like that to Malik Scott's explicit OnlyFans. That way it's the kind of light version. His wife is there. I think it's his wife anyway, or maybe it's a video model. I would assume it's his wife. They're very close to the video, and it's a kind of a bouncy affair anyway. But yeah, so I think it's great. I'm all for it. Like I said, I'm in the fucking LDBC now, practically. Leading the charge for Wilder to come and save boxing. So, great music video from the Bronze Bomber.
It's got to be better than Versace style. It's got to be.
Come on, he's dissing the Migos for the people that don't know. Come on.
That was Broner, motherfucker. Fuck him.
Oh, sorry. I thought, yeah, Broners. There's a lot of rappers or boxers who've had careers. As we mentioned before, there's Roy Jones, there's Adrian Broner, Danny Garcia, and now we've got Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So watch out for the Fury rap. It's coming soon.
Oh,
probably most likely Tommy.
Tommy Fury always does sing. Fury used to sing at press conferences when he was in Belfast, I remember.
I'd like to see Ricky Hatton record an album of pub favorites.
He did. He was another one, wasn't he? Wasn't he in the Blue Moon or something? He brought it out as a single. I'm pretty sure he did. Anyway, we're going off topic here. He says at 10 to 11 on a Sunday evening. That's all the nominations.
5 nights, 2 questions to preview.
It's all right for you, Matty. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon there.
Yep.
Matty's eating his breakfast for all fucking day.
Right.
I've been up since fucking 5. Eat my ass.
Any nominations from you, Matty?
I've got nothing this week. I'm going to pull the Oz.
Nothing from you. Nothing from Oz. Any from you, Andrew?
Just a couple, mate. Obviously, Deontay Wilder for turning the E17 character with that rap video. One I thought Rob would have picked up on, but he's not picked up on it for last week. It came in late. Came in after the podcast last week. Was the one some diss video? I don't know if it was a rap video, but it looked like some sort of kind of diss, kind of like mock up of Devin Haney's girlfriend apparently mixing. And it came back. I think the voiceover was something along the lines of she couldn't done Raw with no protection. And I just think about the state of Devin Haney on the scales, trying to make weight for the Gambosis fight. I was thinking to myself, he really went in Raw with no protection, So one for that, and I think I just put one up for the Zone for the basically changing their terms and conditions. You've got to give a 30-day cancellation notice now. Basically, so those poor bastards that paid for the Ben fight now need to wait an extra month before they can cancel, but also have to pay that extra month as well. So poor bastards, man. But as I say, it's changed and all that,
Rob, get close to the phone.
Can you hear me or no?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, no, the Haney video is hilarious. There was some guy who had edited in a clip of Devin Haney's girlfriend kissing him after the title fight, and then starts saying that allegedly she'd been with Soulja Boy and some other guys in the industry as well, and he kept on saying Soulja Boy hit it raw with no protection as a voiceover over Soulja Boy dancing, and it just goes on for like 2 minutes, and like it was funny, but it's very foul. Like you can't be going for fellas' fucking wives and all that. Like it's a bit much. Like, but yeah. So I forgot about that one, Andy. But yeah, we must dig the clip out because it is worth watching. It's very funny.
Lovely stuff. That's all the ones I got. Let's go through them very quickly. Thanks to everyone who's thrown in one tonight. We had Kelly Sutherland for being himself. We had Jeff Powell for getting in there. We had Babu versus Muhamuza in Uganda. We had Bunty going mad on Twitter. We had Frank Warren getting caught up in his own discussion. We had Isaac Warrior Low. We had Joe Markowski talking about Blair. We had Frank Bruno selling the Apollo pictures. We had the Groat shitting on Matty. We had Armchair Dan and Coppinger. We had the Blonde Bomber telling lies. We had Who Wins and How. We had the Tombstone. We had the other Tombstone. We had Joshua singing. We had Wilder singing. And we're throwing Gabe Brown as well. I have a couple of front runners myself, Andy, but who are you going for?
I'm going to go for the Tombstone, mate. I've got to go for the Tombstone. There's just no way that should be permitted. That a guy has got to like clean out his belly button with oos because it's just you can't see.
Probably about £8 worth in the belly button, Andy.
Oh, mate, he's probably got a reinforced toilet. Probably needs to fucking walk out the door sideways. Put a wee bit of Vaseline on his belly just to make sure he gets it. That's just an absolute outrageous.
Imagine you got like fucking pro ambitions, like you're the other guy, like, and you're training in the gym and all, and like you're fighting this kid Tombstone, or he's a handful and all, and then he comes in. It's got to be like that fucking scene in the Office Christmas special where he fucking goes through the dating agency, and one turns up and he just turns to the camera and goes, "Fuck's sake!" The fucking. Imagine as your opponent, you're training in the gym, you have serious ambitions, like taking the heavyweight crown, and you have to beat this guy on the way up. Oh, fuck's sake.
Thing is, though, Rob, do you remember that New Zealand guy who Aussie nominated a few years ago, Conrad Lamb? He came in at £434. So that was nearly £100 heavier than Tombstone.
He's only a skinny mini, the Tombstone.
Fucking life goals.
In fairness, if you're fighting at 400 plus pounds, you deserve some kind of fucking credit. Jesus Christ. If you're walking at all, it's got to be hard.
Right, Matty, there's a couple for me. I thought Frank Warren's was brilliant. Just the way he completely dissected and shit on the fight he's going to have to try and promote for the next 2 months. But I think it's got to be Tombstone for me. Matty, who are you going for?
I just think you have to kind of go for that card and the assortment of obese men that fought on it. You know, like I think we just need to broaden that out a bit and go say the big titty men won it this week.
They absolutely did. Right, Rob, final one to you, please.
It's going to be the Kansas City Fat Camp, isn't it? Like it's going to take some beating. There's no Gad or Eddie or anything this week. Like so, it's been a slow week. Like Gad was vaping, that was about it. But yeah, so we got to go to the Kansas City. I'd love to get like some. We need to drill down with Tim Boxley on this now. Find out some into the promoter's mindset. What's his hopes and dreams for the sport? Where's it going next?
Rob, that's perfect, Rob. I'm going to have to interview Tim Boxeo soon because he listens to the show and he's in the Patreon, so I'm going to have to get hold of him for some of these cards.
Yeah,
I bet they just paid these guys in barbecue.
Right, congratulations, TJ, Tombstone, Jones, and the whole of the Kansas City card. You are Bellew of the Week winners for episode 497. Also, before I hand over to Matty, thank you very much to Steve Anderson for his super chat. And thank you to Brummy Bear, who joined us over at patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. He's in the Nutters group as well, and he's loving it. Thank you, Matty. Back to you.
Yes, and thank you, Brummy Bear and Steve Anderson, for being part of the experience here. We appreciate you all. We appreciate everybody in the chat. Ozzy, Andy, Rob, Steve joining me, Matt, today. It has been good fun. Steve is going to be in the hot seat next week, and we're going to have that Japanese guard to discuss, as well as Bivol Ramirez, which I think is going to be a hell of a good fight. You folks have a great week ahead, and we will see y'all next week.
We'll never forget.
Ja, dat is gedaan.
Go to animals! We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumple fucking Stiltskin.
but allegedly Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't it? 7 year ain't it?
I will fucking smash. Fuck you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds. Simple as